and I mean, there's uncomfortable stuff, but it's some of it is uncomfortable because he's trying for a little more realism.
Yes, and personally, I prefer it. The only way is that he just he doesn't condemn it or condone it or promote it or anything. He just writes like it's there, and then it's you as a viewer who has to kind of look at it. And I would say that is kind of acceptable today. It's kind of you probably should be put in more emphasis one way or the other, but it's there, so to speak. So and just look at any fantasy movie or story, it's there, and so that way is no different. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Okay. Sorry, I'm
Mike,
babbling already.
Thanks for the donation. You're up in a couple. I think I'm down to like in the 200s now on so you're.
Oh.
Yeah, it may get to you for an original. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. But just note that you're coming up on that first.
Hey, that would be fantastic. I will not turn that down.
Yeah, it's I don't have the list up now, but I think Puppets, Child's Play, and Doom Grinder are all left still. In original.
Now I have a fan going. Is it disruptive in my sound?
I haven't heard it.
No, I
Okay.
can't hear it either, so it's good.
If it is, I'll let you know.
I have a fan too, so
I've not heard it.
Yeah, it's just we're still in the 80s here. I don't have air conditioning, so it is a bit of a better day, though.
Yeah, did you have those storms go through?
Yeah, and well, it's past 7, so but we go from nice day to overcast, but we haven't had any real thunderstorms banging in like we were.
We had some nasty ones just a couple of hours ago.
We've had some clouds and stuff, but it's not enough humidity.
What's up, Patrick?
Yet.
Good to see you, man.
We rarely get it in the summer. We get it in the winter. Sometimes
Now,
in the summer.
I don't have Twitch on, so I'm not seeing any. Yeah, it's just I'm not seeing any of the chat. Just to let you know.
That's okay. Well, I'll handle that.
Yeah.
Great.
So this is like a calm week. I only have 3 streams.
Yeah, it's halfway vacation for you.
Yes, last week was crazy.
Now this is the new Chromebook Zoom, and the only thing I get is every once in a while you guys freeze up and I have to switch from the views, and it refreshes from gallery view to speaking view. And Gary and Sam seem to think it was because the Chromebook has such a low amount of RAM.
That's probably it.
Yeah.
With you not having Twitch open though, and anything else, like I don't think that'll be that big of a problem. So, but we'll see.
No,
it's going fine.
We did test it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Very, very cool.
And it's getting more like I was very kind of grayed out, I think, before, and I think it's getting more color with this.
No blue box off for us tonight. So.
Okay. I took a nap and I was so damn glad that I thought I set my alarm before I fell asleep, but I didn't. So I was glad I woke up in time. I was like, damn.
Very good, Patrick. Thanks for asking. Like I said, I'm getting out the complimentary gifts to the top donators from the stream. We'll talk about that when we go live. Very, very good. Please tell me you can hear us. That would be bad if not. Awesome. Thanks, Tino. We just got more downloads for Whitewood Abbey. We just got some really cool stuff. More stuff. Awesome. Thanks.
How you doing, Mike?
Yeah, I also have a nap.
Yeah.
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 It's nice
Good.
to have naps after. I had a big
Oh,
dinner
wow.
and I just zoned out.
Some
That
Celtic.
was so good. Yep. And
Sometimes
I-
you gotta do it.
thought I set the alarm and stuff. I must have slept through it because I woke up like 20 minutes after the alarm went off and
Oh.
it's like a 4:12 or something like that. I was like, uh-oh. Like about an hour later.
Yeah, I just did recording number 40 tonight, so I had a nap just before that, and
Okay.
so that's 40 hours done.
How many
And,
pages?
And
per
I'm
thing?
on number 2. Yeah.
How many pages per?
Well-
recording?
Well, see, it varies. It depends upon content. There are days when we only get through 3 or 4 pages, and then there are days like today. I think I did about 8 pages today, and some days I even do over 10. But if the story is action, and a lot of travel description without anything real specific, then I could go through a lot of pages. Like, say there's a fight going on. Sometimes there's very, very little to talk about. And other times there's all this information coming out that's worth commenting on. And that slows things down, of course.
Makes sense. Look at that. We still got 10 minutes here as people are starting to show up, so except we're early. That's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It's good.
I still love watching all the previews here.
Yes, and I don't know if you've seen any pictures on Facebook or on Discord that Jason Bill has painted up a lot of the Bones 5 scenery
Oh.
stuff already. Oh yeah.
That is great. That is
It's
great.
good. We're gonna highlight a lot of it tomorrow night in the game running. We got 4 special guests tomorrow night playing, so it's a regular group, but with 4 guests outside. So,
Yeah, I'll
comes
have
the
to be
bonus
jumping
one.
back and forth. I believe Alyssa is doing some stuff tomorrow night.
oh yeah, cool.
She's got this she's doing something for Frog God Games. I think the Necropolis.
Yeah.
you mentioned that.
That's actually Necromancer Games subbed for Frog God, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, actually, it goes all the way back to Dangerous Journeys. The first Necropolis book was Dangerous Journeys, and then they redid it for Necromancer, and now they're redoing it for Frog God. So you've got Gary's own system, and then the 3rd edition stuff that came out for Necromancer, and this next one should probably be 5e and Swordsman Wizardry.
Yeah, I think it is. So, Frog God is officially sponsoring Virtual Greyhawk Con now. So I got them on board.
Excellent.
So we got 3 major sponsors: Reaper, Trollord, and Frog God. And also, I'm letting Frog God sponsor the Fantasy Mapping show too. Just that show. Yep. Pretty cool.
Well, I mean, Frog God comes out with a tremendous amount of material.
yeah.
There's so many Frog God, and they come out with these gigantic books. Like we're getting the big things from Goodman Games that redoes the old 1st edition stuff. Frog God comes out with their original material, and it's in, those big hardcovers that they have. So,
Yep. Good evening, everyone. I got a bunch, like 3 or 4 of their books, and I got more on their way from Frog God that I think I would utilize. So, thanks, Patrick.
yeah.
Patrick's throwing out the subs already.
One of the best from Frog Gods is Bard's Gate.
I have Bard's
it's
Gate in Necromancer Games version. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, the small one.
Oh yeah, it's hardback.
And then,
yeah.
But then the version they came out with recently is gigantic. There's one that could be used for, the Sul Barbarians. That is like a Viking-based, big, gigantic hardcover series of adventures.
Almost a hype train already. All we need someone else to do 100 or a sub.
Wow.
Patrick's already done 2 gift subs, so that's funny. Yeah, I'm kind of impressed with Frog God, and I'm giving him a shot to participate in stuff. And oh, look at that! The 2 of them. Oh my gosh!
Wow.
I wasn't begging there, guys. Oh my gosh!
That's how you do it.
Wow. That's hysterical. Thanks, everyone. Wow, boing. Yeah, I appreciate that. We'll get that over level 2, and we'll have a second giveaway. We already got got 2 at least. So, all right, Gord the Rogue's Greyhawk setting tonight. Oh, thanks, man. Thank you. This will be an interesting discussion. I've only gotten through 2 books. Well, I haven't gotten through the second book yet. I'm doing the best I can, you know.
But at least you've done it recently, so.
Yeah. True.
I would like to have like 6 months ahead on this show so I can read them all again.
Yeah.
So it's 5 minutes early, and I'll have people say, "Oh, you're on so early," but I'll do some announcements. How's that sound? We'll come on a little early, and we'll just do more announcements. Boom. Early is good. Good evening, everyone. Legends and Lore, welcome. I'm J.K. Lord Gazumba, and tonight, very just interesting show we're going to have with Greyhawk, Mike Bridges, and Meyer, and special guest tonight, Jason Zavoda. Jason, welcome back. It's been a little while.
Thank you very much. It has been a little. I did the 100th, that 100th episode.
Yeah, that's true. I always go back, like, I think you were on a Gabin that I link a lot in Facebook chats, and that's beginning a Greyhawk campaign. I think it was you, Anna, and me. We discussed that one back in the day, and that seems to be one of the ones I link a lot early on into the chat, so people can, get. Because there's always questions, how do I start in Facebook, and stages of Greyhawk and all the other sites. So try and do my best to help them out here. So hopefully everyone's doing well tonight as we are cranking out. We've already cranked out some stuff here. Let me get all caught up in chats and giveaways and all. So Anna, Mike, how are you all doing? Everything going good tonight?
Yeah.
Good to hear.
I had a nap, almost slept in. I managed to wake up by myself before the show. That was kind of
I'm groggy, but let's do it.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I had a big dinner and I kind of took a nap. Yeah, but when it's hot here, you have to take a siesta. So I'm up like 4:30, 5 the latest, and out early. So after dinner I get tired, so that way I can keep it up better in the evening. So it's good.
Very cool. So a couple things here. Just wanted to say once again, I know we talked about this a little bit on Sunday, but I'm working through the donator giveaways. So the cutoff, I think, is going to. Whoops! I just nixed that there. Wow. Oh, thanks, man. Well, Quimsy, if you, I'm hitting the wrong buttons right here, and it's zonking a little bit. Wow. If you can't watch and you can lurk, that's great. If not, wow, thank you so very much for that great cheer. Damo, all right, good. You got the Titan Dice already from the Saturday game. That is awesome, man. So good. Things are going well. I'm getting through the giveaways, and I got to brag a bit here. So out of the first 4 giveaways for people, who top donators, of course, the Sign Gargoyles went 1, 2. right? 1, 2 signed gargoyles. 3 and 4 were signed dual copies of Horror in the Hools. So there you go. So they're going. The 5th thing was the Pathfinder Mwangi book went 5th. So, and Eric Mona agreed to sign that too. So, those were the first 5. So we still got a bunch of other stuff that we're getting through. I'm going to get down to. I think it's going to cut off. I think this time we're going to cut off at 95 or 50. I'm not sure, but I'm trying to get through all the giveaways I have from the sponsors and from us, and just be patient because I got to go in order and get through everyone. But we mailed out a lot of stuff. Got mailed out today. So, but thank you all for that wonderful, wonderful support. And Quimsy, thank you everyone for the wonderful cheer support tonight. So here's what we're giving away tonight. Because we're talking Gord, why not the Den of Thieves reprint? This is a good book, man. All right, this is by Wes Nicholson, black bordered. Figuring, hey, why not? And then the second one, I think we'll do The Adventure Begins. But once again, if it happens with what happened with Phantom, I have other stuff below. This is the Canadian Ancient Gamer pile down here of all the reprints he sends. So these are the 2 we'll do tonight now. Thank you, as we got into a level 3 hype train already. So Jason's connection's holding up great, Gary, which is good to hear.
Yeah.
Which is real good to hear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Haven't noticed any problems whatsoever.
So I have to tell one other quick story while I know Gary is on and conscious. So I'm in chat. And I have this post. It's a record post. It's like 1.2 thousand likes on the old school TSR gamers. I showed my wall of fame. And you know how Gary started busting my balls and started switching out stuff. Well, the second one he did is this one. And I got to show this because it's hysterical. So this is the wall of fame joke 2. And this one. So there it is. This is the one that he added, like Veil of the Mage. And what's his say? More bugs, holy crap bugs or whatever, and Q and all. And you also put Expeditions to the Ruins of Greyhawk there. So Eric linked Gargoyle when he saw the post, and then I said, hey Eric, you're check out what Gary did for us. And then he saw this and he laughed his ass off. Eric Mona did, and he goes, oh my god, but he was kind enough to put mine up there. So 2 things from this. I said to Eric, I said, it's probably Expedition to Ruins of Greyhawk probably belongs on my wall, but I haven't made a change in like 3 years. So I'm going to do a show that we're going to talk about upgrading the Wall of Fame down the road. But beside that, we need to get together the group for the 30 greatest Greyhawk adventures of all time discussion. And I thought to myself, why don't I just go for it? I'm going to invite everyone that I can that I know that was part of that group and see who shows up.
Oh, jeez.
Monty Cook. Why not? Right, Anna? What do you think? Just invite them all. Is that sound a good idea?
You get a couple that's
Bruce Cordell, whoever was part of that group, because I know Erica's going to do it. Eric's in, James Jacobs is in. I'm assuming Gary's in, and we'll just rehash that. So that's down the road, and that all bounced off of that discussion. So that'll be a blast. But just wanted to let everyone know that that's in the works. Wouldn't that be great if they all showed up and there was just all this bickering? I think it would be hysterical. So we should. Yeah, exactly, Gary. But it served its purpose, and Eric noticed it. So that was kind of timely and poetic by you. All right. So tonight, Jason, once again, thank you. This meant so much, the world to me. Jason sent these to me, which was so nice.
Oh boy.
Thank you, Defray. So nice. And I was like, you know what? Yeah. I'm going to treasure them.
They're off my pile here too. So
they're never leaving my side. They're never leaving my possession.
I'm missing one.
You're missing one. Yeah.
One or 2. You got 5 there. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Dance of Demons, Knight Errant. Those are the ones that you might miss?
They looked like they were both blue. It looked like Come Endless of Darkness and Dance of Demons.
I do not.
Yeah, those are the last 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have
Hype train. Thank you all.
That's when things go off the rails to a lot of
mulched. I hate that.
Yeah.
That's terrible. So I wanted them specifically because I didn't want to interfere with anything that Gary had written. I think Jason is going to test this in his discussions and give us this is my general synopsis of it, and then I'll open up. I'll keep my mouth shut. Gary did a great job almost doing a tour of the Flannis, right?
Oh,
That's
yeah,
what that's
yeah.
what I felt, but didn't go into
Yeah.
specifics anywhere. So, so Jason, what do you think about that?
Well, um, you know, his book goes into greater detail on some subjects than you'll find anywhere. But it's a rolling travelogue novel. It's not setting material. So, and you can also detect his old style of kind of bare bones. He gives you, information, but it's not like he's going to overly detail stuff. The story is the main point. So he's passing through areas, and he's not going to give you, big lists of inns. Well, necessarily, he does actually in a short story, but he's not going to break down like the city of Greyhawk the way the box set breaks it down. And he's not going to talk about some of the other cities and cultures that he's been part of.
Okay.
That
there we had our first Jason glitch.
The character is part of a campaign resource. But you got bare bones that you get from the folio, and the 83 set is very prevalent. The idea of adding like a few one word or a few commentaries that can be very inspiring, but are still leaving a lot of details up to the imagination of the reader. And if you're looking for it as a campaign resource, then the imagination of the DM, he's not going to heavily, write down details. So, like the Gord series is wonderful for material, but it is not a setting book. It's a living, breathing story, and that helps because it gives atmosphere and tone to the setting that you can't really get from a dry setting book. No matter how much you want to do in a setting and enrich it, a story always adds something.
So the story in this case, so is Gary, where is Gary at this point? Is he out at TSR?
No.
Well,
the first book, he was still there.
First book only.
And the second. The second book's also.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's
now,
why the covers change. That's why the covers change.
There are,
yep.
Exactly. There are 7 books written by Gary Gygax about Gord the Rogue. The first 2 are published by TSR.
Yeah.
And then the next 5 are by his company once he's been forced out of TSR. Mm-hmm. But if you're reading it, you kind of come to realize that the third book, which is the first that isn't under the TSR publishing, actually fits in very well with books 1 and 2.
Yep.
All right. So it's obviously been written before, he's left TSR. And we were talking, and Anna was mentioning that, some of this stuff really seems to go back into the 70s.
Yeah.
The original writing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because he had a Dragon article, like a short story of Gord leading up to the books. That was and there's some articles when they kind of interview him when he writes about it, and that he's been working on it for years. So I don't know how long, but I don't think those were written the last couple of 2-3 years. I think he worked on them for longer, and in parallel with the setting material being ready for release, so to speak.
So Dragon 100.
Well,
just the short
Dragon.
Story.
It's somewhere along those. I read it like 6-8 months ago.
I actually read it like 6 hours ago.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and the intro to it, I think, mentions he indicated that it was written after he had wrote the novels.
Yes,
and
definitely.
he wrote it for the
launch
to advertise. The launch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. It's set as an advertising snippet, kind of a teaser for the novel.
Yeah, but I don't believe that Dragon 100 is Gord and Greyhawk or Earth. At the end of the novels, he destroys the Earth. So I think Dragon 100. maybe I'm wrong. I didn't think it was a Greyhawk story.
Oh yeah. It's a Greyhawk story. It's a
Yeah.
short little story when Chert and Gord goes on rampant, going wild on.
They're just in
yeah.
the city of Greyhawk.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
go
They're
to
in City
Oh,
of Greyhawk,
bar
and they
he
go out
plays
and
Dragon
have
Chess.
fun overnight, so to speak. That's it. So, yeah, they're out on some fun.
Okay. I don't remember it, so.
Yeah, that's as
That's
far
why I
as
went back and read it, because I've only read the first Gord book all the way through, and then I
Yeah.
thought to myself, I remember the Dragon 100 article, but I don't remember reading it. So, and I thought, well, that'll be quicker to read. It's only 6 or 7
Mhm.
pages long. So I went back and read it, and it is in this. I don't know where to place it. It's in the city of Greyhawk, so I have to assume it's maybe early in his career. I think he mentioned
But
somewhere in there
but-
that he's 21.
Yeah, but he can't be too early because he didn't meet Chert until kind of
Oh, really?
a bit into his career.
So
Yeah,
this
because
infers that he
it's
comes
after he
back to
left.
the
He
city.
must have gone back to the Greyhawk City,
Oh,
and he does
okay.
that in the books too. So it
Oh.
fits in later
So
in the
it does
story of the
fit.
books when he and
Okay.
Chert comes back and stuff. So yeah. Mhm.
And it's just those two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just those two.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that is mostly with the Knight Errant anthology, which is, a collection of short stories. That is mostly Gord and Chert in the city of Greyhawk.
Yeah.
The big thing is that putting. I know it's mentioned somewhere that he was 21, but we were working on. There's clues, but not like a lot of definitive information about the time passage, but working things out. Gord starts out age 12, and I believe by the time he meets Chert in the first novel, he's well past 21. But
Mhm.
some things there's some discontinuity in the stories.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think Gygax probably wrote him as 21, but maybe forgot that he had actually moved him
Yeah. He
further
couldn't-
along in the story.
He couldn't. I probably didn't go back to all the details and of the story. And also, we don't know how far into the editing and stuff those books were when he wrote that story. So he could have been anyway. But it is kind of. What I'm curious is how much of a, because I think that when they planned Saga of Old City, I'm pretty sure that TSR had a Greyhawk City box set already in the works, so to speak. Something.
In the work, sure.
Yeah. I don't know how far advanced it was, something, but it was. I'm sure it was something that they had kind of. Oh, we need to kind of do more about use the city of Greyhawk and make a box set or a book or some product directly tied into the city, and the Saga of the Old City will be a companion product or something. And it's interesting because then you have City of Hawks that comes out later, because when Gary was ousted, and he also wrote Gary he wrote one article or a letter to Dragon after he was ousted and said that now blah blah, he explained it, and he said that he had the contractual rights to finish the Gord stories, so to speak, and he mentioned that, and so this book. So this book is kind of a wrap up of Saga of Old City, where you see things from the other side. And it's also interesting because here he goes much more into detail about the city and mention it way more. And this is published much later, but I think this is a lot of the auxiliary material that he hadn't used, or TSR didn't use, because they put up a completely a very different City of Greyhawk box set from what I think would have been the case if Gary had been at the helm.
Right.
So
and City of Hawks is the first of the Gygax maps of the City of Greyhawk that we see.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
Very rough.
It's very rough, but it's a very interesting, and I know some people don't like it, but I do. But it's interesting because if you take Saga of Old City and this one put together, and Knight Errant that is also partially set in it, you get a very interesting, in-depth take at the city. And there's also some scenes from Divers and others in some of the other Gord books as well. So city adventuring and stowing and stuff. So city adventuring seems to have been close dear to Gary's heart, and because he wrote a lot about it. And I guess it was easy to do fun, interesting stuff in the inns and the clubs and the various other establishments of various reputable sorts, so to speak, that are quite frequent. I must say that Gord is that, but he's that kind of character. So yeah, I must say it fits with the story. So yeah.
So Canadian asked the same question I was going to ask, but I think Jason answered this. How did he use Greyhawk and all the other names? But he still had, even though it got kicked out of TSR, he still had the contract to write these books.
Yeah,
but some names didn't carry over.
Yeah, all the names that he used in the previous books, he can continue to
Oh.
use. The other ones he had, because he hadn't used Sea of Dust, for instance. So that's why he had to call it Sea of Death. And Nerul is Infestix because he was not mentioned and stuff like that. So in the later books, there's all the stuff that was mentioned in Saga of Old City and Artifact of Evil are using the same names in the later books. The other ones are renamed, but there's probably some Google list on someone probably wrote a translation guide, so to speak. So it's a bit like Carlos modules. He filed off the serial numbers on the stuff, on some of the stuff that was not in the earlier books. That's what I've heard of the legal stuff.
Okay.
Well, for example, Loth, there's no Loth in the first two books, so she's Arachne in the books that followed, and there's no Cuthbert in the first two books, so he uses another Saint Trobane, I think it is.
But Grast is there, for instance, because he's mentioned in the first books, and Ayus is there and stuff. So yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. Now, did they?
Yes, they're not one-for-one matchups.
Did he? No, that's good to know. Did he do that to CYA, or was he told to do that, or anyone know?
I don't know. Maybe they had some sort of understanding, or maybe I don't know. But that seemed to have been his modus operandi. That's how he did it. So
Okay. Yeah. Very cool.
And it gets really weird at the end, so to speak, because he diverts himself from Greyhawk more and more in the books, and it becomes a study in the underworld and stuff. That, to me, apart from the two main interesting parts in this whole saga series of books are the Greyhawk, the road movie across Greyhawk that gives you little kind of tidbits from various places that are very interesting, like Inspa and Stowink and stuff like that. And then you get a very interesting take on the court of Ayus, of Grast and Infestix, or like Nerul and others. That is dynamite. I think that's where he shines the most as a writer, because his convoluted, dry kind of, it works really well in demonic courts and stuff like that. I think his writing style fits that really well. And it's to me, that's some of the best he's written. And then he kind of go off the rails, but those places are supposed to be crazy. So that kind of, it fits the bill.
Yeah. And I mean, what it breaks down to is, all right, books 1, 2, and 3. Books 1 and 2 are TSR. Book 3, Sea of Death, is obviously written before the breakup, and it fits really well in with the first two. Book 4 is a collection of short stories, which again seems to be written previously by Gygax.
It's a wrap-up of the first, the auxiliary material from the first 3 books.
And book 5 is City of Hawks, and what he does is he takes he retells the story from the beginning of Saga of Old City. He changes and adds some information. So he's got a new company. He's republishing the books. And I think that obviously City of Hawks is the first of the new material. Now, all this is still mostly Greyhawk, especially books 1, 2, 3, and the Knight Errant Anthology. Book 5 with City of Hawks, he now is expanding it into talk about other planes, I believe the Plane of Shadows and the Abyss. And that business with talking about like the devilish and demonic and daemonic kind of planes is just, it is a treasure of Gygaxian interplanar. Like it is his take on how the planes would work, unlike like Planescape, and it is it is a real treasure. And like Anna was saying, for me, it's the same thing. I love the road to aspect, the travelogue across Greyhawk in the earlier books, and Sea of Death is one of my favorites. But I also love what he did, like the character that he has as Grasset's main man there is Vuron, and perhaps one of the best characters that Gygax wrote.
He's so good. Oh, Vuron, I love Lord Vuron. He's my favorite villain in all of Greyhawk. He's just awesome. Yeah.
But he only appears in these books.
Yes.
Well,
but but there is a version of him in Forgotten Realms too, and stuff. So there are he's kind of one of these things that I think is only partially a Greyhawk Gary villain. Yeah, it's one of these kind of slightly different guys, meaning he's the pale demon and stuff like that. So he's appeared in various other guises. So I don't know exactly how much Gary actually invented him, or he made his version of him or something like that. So it's a bit of a gray area. But the way Gary portrays him as a collected, wise, smart, curious, purely evil, manipulative, analytical demon is kind of super cool. And privately, I've had for my campaign, I have the idea that Grust and Vuron are demon or devils in exile, so to speak. They are devils in exile from hell. They decided to break out on their own, and they kind of have a different take on it, so to speak. Yeah.
I think that was canonized in later D&D products.
It might be, yeah, because I know I snapped up the idea from somewhere, and I liked it, so I went with it, so to speak. So yeah, so he probably wanted to be a leader of the 9 hells, and when he couldn't be, he simply struck out on his own. And Lord Vuron is the one that whispers in the ears and keep he is the eyes and ears and the wisdom, and Grust can be going on with all his love and sex affairs and all the lust and all that stuff, and Vuron is the intellectual part in that partnership. So they have like a partnership in power that I think is a power duo that is really, really interesting. And Vuron is the intellectual, analytical, strategic, and Grust is the violent, tactical, powerful one, so to speak. Yeah.
I was not aware.
Yeah, I always found Vuron the best character in all the books.
Yeah. Definitely.
Hands down for me.
Yeah.
But he appears not until book 5.
I think he appears in books from maybe even in the second, but at least from I think 3 or 4. He goes on and off. Yeah, he goes on and off because as soon as the Theor part comes in and the negotiations about it, he's heavily involved, and he outmaneuvers and does all sorts of interesting stuff, so to speak. So he's part of it. So yeah. And he's also a multidimensional because he's not pure evil. He seems to, and that's the other interesting aspect. Leda, that is the clone of I should know this. Eclabda, exactly, and he is somehow involved with that, and kind of had his fingers in the pie there, so to speak, and there is some good in the whole thing, and I always portrayed him and saw him as more analytical and curious than evil.
So
if you're doing alignment, he's more like neutral evil.
Yeah, and the evil part, he's not interested in hurting others for pleasure, so to speak, but he's interested in knowing and make sure that Grust stays in power, and then he can do whatever it takes, but he's not doing it out of spite, so to speak. He wants to be effective, and that's it.
When does the Collaborator first appear?
Eclabda is
definitely book 3. Sea of Death, I believe.
Sea of Death, okay.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe even in the second one. I forgot which, but it's when that contest about the Theor part starts, she's early on in that book. And that's when you get these wonderful insight in Ayus and his court that you get. That's when El Clavdra comes in the picture, and Obni and Keek and stuff. It's fantastic.
Perfect.
Yeah, and that's when
Perfect.
I simply it's so cool when Eric Mona just refers to Keek as well, that elf that is kind of and the dwarf and stuff. Oh, it is dynamite. That is so
Yeah.
cool. If you read the Gord books, you know exactly what he's referring
Top
to.
Alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric's been on a roll, so
Oh yeah, yeah, and it
definitely.
fits that and you can tell that. Yeah, it fits into that narrative really, really well. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so
I know I'm babbling again.
no,
Sorry.
babbling is great. Babbling is great. As we, look, we've gotten through 20
Yep.
some minutes already, and really haven't
Yep.
even gone over a topic. So, this is what I noticed just getting through the first, partially through book 2 was, man, Gord's all over the place after he gets out of Greyhawk. I mean, he's everywhere.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I was like,
Oh, yeah,
wow.
that's
I think that
that
was part
is.
of. Oh, sorry. Go on, Jason.
Well, I was just going to say this travelogue of Gord. It is what makes this so resource filled, because he is touching on places all over the Flyness, and he's just traveled. I'd like to see a map that shows Gord's travels, going through the Flyness, like the old dotted line that showed where people were going. And it would be so cool to see where he is traveling back and forth to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I noticed that and I pronounce it Renee. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong. Renee.
Yeah.
Are travel long distances during seasons, according to this book. Long distances.
Yeah.
Which I was almost in like a triangle from Stoink south to the bottom of Ernst all the way up to the Flinty Hills. I mean, I was like, wow.
Yeah, he goes from Greyhawk east and to Lakeish, and then across the near Dub with the Rennie to Radagast City, and then into the Bandy Kingdoms and Stoink and stuff, and then south through Nyrond and then over to Inspa and up to Nurl and get involved in a lot of trouble there. And so I see it that Gary wanted to tell the story and show the readers the central Flannese and its main things. I mean, you have some great kingdom, you have great city, there's some city hopping and some of the oddities about the setting. So and it does that really, really well, I think.
Yeah, it's funny. There's really only about 85 pages about the city of Greyhawk. And then there's about another 80 pages on Stoink by itself.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that's really wonderful, as we're talking about the Rennie, however you pronounce it,
exactly,
is that you get first a description, probably the greatest I've seen, about their culture from this book. And then when he leaves Radagast City, then it's all the Atloi, who are the caravan, land-based, more traditional gypsy-like Rennie. And there is this dislike between the two, where the barge folk Rennie think very lowly. They don't think much of the Atloi, who are the caravan Rennie, and vice versa. So they add that little thing. And as far as like the Atloi go, I don't think there is another resource that has so much information about them that I've seen in the professionally published work. There may be some fan material.
They're barely mentioned in any other Greyhawk product, as far as I know. It's there's more about them in Saga of Old City and all the other sources combined, I think.
So here's something I want Jason to explain. Okay. Here comes my folk feuds and factions from my City of Greyhawk box.
Yeah.
This is published in 1989. Okay. This is 1985, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And probably written much earlier.
Written much earlier. I'm going to the section on the Beggars Union. All right. I'm going to read the first couple lines. When Beggarmaster Theobald, King of Junk, precipitated the war between Thieves Guild and the Beggars Union some 15 years back, and the Beggars ultimately crushed, and then it goes on. It says it seemed as if the Beggars Union was finished. The Beggars Union on Theobald become too greedy, and then it says that Arental was the head of the Thieves Guild there, and then Gaspar sued for peace, which doesn't happen in the book, right? I don't recall seeing that part in the books, but they used the names. I was surprised they did pull over what he put in those books into this publication.
Sure. But
Well, that was
I believe there's a great deal now. That book and that box set, the Greyhawk City box set, you'll notice that Carl Sargent is one of the authors of it. And you
Yeah,
know,
Rick
the
Rose,
first
yeah.
book and the second book are TSR publications. They had he definitely read those books because there is information which he used later on that definitely was only used in the Gord the Road books.
That's so. I'm
Mhm.
saying he's pulling from Gord the Road canon and making it general
Yeah.
canon in these because that's the only place it was at that time
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
Aaron Toll and Theobald
Yeah.
specifically. So
And it's interesting to see it. Either Gary took the Greyhawk map and his concept of the city way, and TSR didn't have it, or there was some sort of agreement saying that Gary could keep it and TSR developed their own version of the city independent from Gary. I don't know, but it's because it's partially there, but it's the looks and the layout of the city, Gary went in a different direction. And it's interesting, if Gary had been the helm some more years, we would probably had a Greyhawk City box set that looked like the one in the City of Hawks.
well, just
Yeah.
I noticed
Now-
it and
Yeah.
just wanted to state that.
Well, it's that the City of Hawks map comes out with book 5, you know,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
the
Good to see
Saga
which
of
year.
Old City, the descriptions in Saga of Old City pretty much match that map.
They
There's
match
some
this one. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some differences that obviously I haven't gone and reviewed and doing the in-depth
And
commentary
this one
on
is from
City of Hawks yet.
1987. This one
Yeah.
is printed 1987. So
Right,
this
which is
one
I'm
was
saying
early.
it's 2 years
Yeah.
before
And-
that box set
Yeah.
came out.
Mhm.
And the 85 Saga of Old City could really have done with that map.
Mhm.
Because it does get a little confusing.
Yeah.
Now, there are things in Saga of Old City that do not match the map provided in City of Hawks. When you begin the story, Gord is in the slums, all right? And then it mentions that there is a menial labor section on the edge of the slums. And then Gord goes from that section through the Black Gate over into the foreign quarter, and the map changes all that, and it adds a beggar's quarter, a thief's quarter, all separate from the foreign quarter. And so the way that he's described it doesn't quite match up with how it became in City of Hawks. There was no like university district. There was simply a part of, I think, the High Quarter, but there's a university district, Clerkburg. There's
Yeah.
Clerkburg and then the university district. And that's not how it's set up in the story of the Saga of Old City. Now, when he wrote City of Hawks, he rewrote the story. He added some characters, and it is different. He has a different upbringing than he had in Saga of Old City in a few ways.
Well,
So
he changed the story completely, and I don't know how much spoilers we're going to put in, but there is a difference. He goes from a little street urchin to become something very different in this book.
yeah, it's been a little while since I read it. Now,
Yeah.
by the end of next year, I'm going to have done commentary on all the books.
Mhm.
And the difference is that I never really noted it down. I actually tried starting an in-depth notation, which is different from indexing in a very great way.
Yeah.
There was, back in the 90s, there was a fan named Chris Siren, and he really picked apart the books for a little bit of an encyclopedic version of the Gord the Road books, which it's not referencing pages. It's providing detail about characters and various subjects about the Gord the Road Greyhawk setting. This, what I'm doing right now, is very different, because what I'm doing is just making an audio commentary on what's contained in these books. So in a sense, I'm eventually going to have a very in-depth over every book, but it's going to be about 50 hours of 50 hours to do each book. And so 350 hours, it's probably going to take about a year to go through all of them. We're just about done commenting on the first Saga of Old City, and probably in August we'll start with Artifact of Evil.
Okay.
And by the time I'm finished with all that, we'll be able to pull out all these details in depth and note the contradictions, because we've already noted among his writing, because writing doesn't take place all at once. So he's done the one section, he may jump around to other sections or do it sequentially through the book, but there's already a few things that on page 20 have changed by the time of page 150. Not that much, but a few discrepancies there that are simply that he forgot, or now. This book is not an unplanned Saga of the Old City. It is not written in a way that is unplanned. You can see there's various themes and structures in the Saga of Old City that are these recurring things, and there's a lot of reveals where you think, well, why did that happen? And then 2 or 3 pages later, Gygax tells you why it happened. So it is not an unstructured book. There is a various themes, and I'll be able to tell more about the others when I've actually finished this commentary work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first book, give me, all three of you, if you remember, a memorable character, location, or an event that sticks out in your mind, or that someone could utilize for a campaign setting or for a game that they're having. How about that?
I gotta jump on that.
Yeah, go
Go
first,
for it, Mike.
All right. No, the thing that always jumped out on me immediately was the coinage system. I know we've talked about it in this show a lot, but when
I
he
love
gets
the
like a
coinage.
platinum piece and is all happy about that, as a DM, that really kind of put things in perspective for me. I'm thinking, man, I'm giving away too much treasure, and I need some more denominations and stuff. That's it.
So the coinage system, I notice, coinage is much more valuable than it is in basic.
Oh yeah,
AT&T.
way.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
The problem I have is that I'd love to use that coinage system, but now my entire system game is screwed.
Now, why
you
would
have
he
to
do
make
that?
the conversion. Yeah.
Why would
he design a game that was around a silver or gold standard and then write about a book where it's not?
Right, it's more about a copper standard almost.
I think he needed it for narrative purposes. He needed Gord to start literally in the at the bottom of the rung, so to speak, where copper is even more than what most people have. And to me, it makes sense because I like the monetary system from the Gord books. That I think fits the setting way better than the gold standard kind of. That's something that fits MMOs, computerized MMOs and stuff, not fantasy tabletop role-playing games. I think they should be more gritty and the coinage system, because it doesn't have much to go up. But if you start at the standard, should be copper or maybe silver, and then you should go up so you have as much room upwards as downwards, so to speak. It should be the middle coin that should be the standard, not the second most valuable, so to speak.
Alderon just really, and he's the Arneson expert and the Blackmore expert, just put in that the gold system is from Blackmore, and maybe this was Gary. He just said this. Maybe that's Gary's way of really differentiating between the Blackmore and the Greyhawk.
Well,
good point.
Yeah, but also, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that the coinage system is explained in the last section of the book, which talks about Gord and the mechanical, the AD&D mechanical relationship. So it has Gord's attributes and describes character classes, and it describes the coinage system and the values in between, which you only get hints at as the story goes along. But I'm interested to hear that was Blackmore, because what Gygax added, first off, gold is incredibly valuable. I mean, there is a major deviation at the point where silver and electrum. Electrum is worth a good percentage of gold, while silver is worth a much more smaller percentage. So at the beginning of the book, you don't see much about gold And you're mostly talking about even things below silver. You're talking about
Iron.
it goes from an iron drab, and an iron drab will get you a very poor meal, and that's talked about in the slum quarter. And then there is a brass, I forgot what brass something or other. I can't remember.
Bits.
Each has a
Brass bits.
brass bit.
Yep.
And that's the next level.
Yeah.
And
but
then
we have to. Sorry, we have to just one add to this is that there is not. It's not doesn't use the base 10. Some of them are 5, some of them are 10, some of them are yeah. So it's like more like the British
exactly
with shillings and various stuff in between. So it's way more complicated. Yeah.
Yes, and now when you get your first equivalency to gold is in the bronze Z's. Bronze Z's. 1,000 bronze Z's is equal to 1 gold piece. Now he also describes that 1,000 bronze Z's very early on in the story, Gord and his Beggars Guild companion San, they run and they're hiding at the end of the war there between thieves and beggars, and they have they've built up a certain amount of coin, which is it turns out it's very great. It has some platinum in it and some gold. Now when they go to the university, they hide out in the university district and they hire a tutor, Prosper, and this tutor, he is only charging them a small amount, and he's working with them 6 days a week. And it turns out that 1 gold would support him for almost a year. So 1 gold piece, and Gord and San are renting a room for a month in an inn, not a bad inn, in the university district for 4 coppers a month. Right. So all of a sudden we have, oh my God, that 1 gold piece is going to support a relatively middle class kind of individual as a tutor. That 1 gold piece is that's a year for a normal human being.
Right.
And later on, so we now have equivalency between 1,000 bronze Z's are 1 gold piece. So, and we can see, the values here. Now, later on, far down in the story, Gord is in Stoink, and he runs into this character called Evely, the daughter of Count Dunstan Blamou of Neural and that area, and the ransom that is being asked for her is 10,000 gold pieces, and it's referred that those 10,000 gold pieces, they are going to bankrupt all of the Count's whole treasury. That it's likely that is a king's ransom. So you can imagine 10,000 gold pieces is a king's ransom, not just a treasure you would find here and there. And how many times did they find thousands of gold?
That's what countries use to negotiate big deals for trade and stuff in between them. That's when you have thousands of gold pieces.
It does create, if you want to go pure to this, it does create an issue with existing games, and it's hard to get out of it. And
yes.
now that Alderon's explained to me that it's the Arneson Blackmore system, I'm stuck with it. For 40 years.
Yeah, and also use the base of 10 makes it a lot easier to calculate.
But it's cool. I mean, it's just so different. Than
I ran with that system for many years up until Pathfinder. Actually, I actually used the Gord or the Gary's coin system from AD&D times. So for 20 years I used it, and I went down to copper base. That was the standard, so to speak.
But if you're looking for, as you were talking about, what are the differences between Gord the Rogue and the further 2nd edition system, this is a major point. I mean, it is a major point of this different value, the different gold standard that is being used. And as you're pointing out, it is a very big sticking place for being able to translate this economic, difference between the Gord books and later on the regular kind of gameplay.
Yeah, Balfour just listed the entire currency list in chat, which is great. So thank you very much for that. What's up, Marbanya? So, great one, Mike. I want to ask a question. I'll do mine. I want to ask a question, and I want to know what happened to him, and if it happens in a book, I want to know. But where does it go from Arantal to Neroth Gazgil or Orgnention? When does that happen, and does anyone know? Because I love Arantal in the books. So
well, I think Neroth is the changeover is City of Greyhawk box set. I'd have to look at up at the index.
But what I'm saying is, does it happen anywhere in the books? I'm saying it's
no,
my
I don't think
character.
so. It's he's only mentioned by name occasionally. I don't think
so. That's a change that no one can explain why Sergeant made that change.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was just curious because it says Arantal is a guildmaster, and then Orgnention becomes a guildmaster. Neroth Gazgil is the mayor. But it doesn't.
It might have just been a screw up in names. And
because Arantal's mentioned in there. The former member, guildmaster at the time, Arantal in the Beggars Guild. So Carl Sargent notes him, and then makes a change to Orgnention. I was just curious why and where that happens. I was thinking, did he get killed?
Something happens probably because someone didn't go back and double check their research, or just wrote things and.
Okay. I was just curious where it happened.
There's lots of little bits of confusion, and there's a lot of things because as we've been commenting, we've noticed several differences in the mapping, and a lot of that can be attributed to the confusion of either Gygax's descriptions or problems about the Darlene map. Because that system, there's a lot of things that are questionable or don't make sense. Like there is a city that's been recently mentioned up in the Bone March called Johnsport. Now, if you look on Darlene's map, it's a landlocked city. I mean, it's very strange to call it Johnsport, but it is definitely it's right up there east of Spine Castle.
Yeah.
And on Darlene's map, it's it's a hex.
I placed it by the coast because of the misplacement on the Darlene map and the name. So that's why I put it on the coast. So yeah. So I adjusted it.
Yeah, the interesting why we first noted was because in the novel, Johnsport was taken at the same time as Spine Castle by the humanoids, and then retaken by the Radicans, and now is a city controlled by Radic, and back to being under human control in this Gord novel.
Okay, what year is that in the Gord novel, roughly? Do we know?
Well, I don't think there's a year that is I've noted being mentioned.
No, but it's something close to 76. So it's close to 576. Probably a couple of years earlier or something like that. So it's that time.
What year does this start?
It starts probably in 70, somewhere around 576. Probably a little bit earlier, but it's in that time frame, I think.
But then he's 12 or whatever, and then when he's 20, then we're talking about in the 580s wars are.
That's true. Oh, you mean that way?
I'm thinking
then it's earlier. Yeah, then it must be earlier. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think it's 576 when the story starts. Now they're saying that Gord is 21 at this point. But I really think from that we were working out for, how much time had passed. Like Gord starts out as 12.
12, that's
but he must be very close to 13 at the time of the Beggars Union War. And then when he hides out afterward, he spends a year being tutored by Prosper.
So it's like 4 years.
And then 2 more years going to Grey College. So there, obviously, he's in the city of Greyhawk at age 16.
Okay.
And then he goes and he gets tutored, I believe, for a year or so in weapons. So Gord's always becoming something more than a beggar thief or a thief. Mm-hmm. He's always gaining these kind of multi-class experiences. And then there's a certain amount of time that he spends in the high quarter, pretending to be
That
a
Lord
knight
guy.
from Valuna.
Right.
I believe it's Sir Margus. And then he runs into Arental and his old friend San, and San, who's now, I think, involved with the daughter of Arental and is now in the Thieves Guild. He then warns Gord, "Hey, Gord, Arental's is looking for you." And then he escapes from the city, and he spends a certain amount of time with the Rene, which, it's not he travels into the near dev with the Rene. And then they winter. At the end of the winter, they are in a cove that the Rene keeps, a secret cove where the Rene spend their winters. And then he's on to Lukesh and then Radagast City. All right. Then, so you're adding like another year.
So Alderaan 2, you see 2, just the black marks were just put. Offensive Saga of Old City, 559, Gord born. 576, small naval battles erupt between the Rene and Duke Karl of Ernst. 578, the Horn Society occupies the Bandit Kingdoms and warfields of Wormhall. 578, the Battle of Woodford. Wow, I mean...
Yeah, I mean, when he goes out on the road adventure across the setting, that seems to be roughly 576. And then you can just
because
early
it
days.
looks like he was... Yeah. When he's 12, it's 571. And then when he starts to go out with the Renette, you're right. When he goes out and about, it's 576 roughly, the base time for the set. Wow.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, before then, it's just like arbitrary early times because you don't get any of the setting info, so to speak.
So, my question was because I want to make sure that the book is a pre-war, pre-Living Greyhawk, early. Early.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Well, and like one of the things you see, like you're talking about the Horn Society. Horn Society has taken over, but they haven't conquered. They have puppet rulers of those 2 bandit kingdoms. But the Tenas and the Pales have conquered 3 other bandit kingdoms. So then we get the Battle of Woodford. And in that, we see that there's a big battle fought there. And it's against the Great Kingdom versus these woodsmen who, Ivid was going to lead up and attack Archibald of Nyrond, who was going over to Nurl. And then there's going to be that jackal Grenell, who comes from North Province, and humanoids coming from the Bone March. And so what Gygax is kind of showing, and we're talking about the differences going here, Gygax at this point is thinking of warfare as like another campaign expansion. Like when we started with D&D, we start dungeon crawling, and then we expand to wilderness and city kind of adventuring. And what Gygax is coming out with here is the idea that you're now moving into the realm of mercenary fighting, sieges, small warfare, and then larger warfare. But what he isn't talking about is this great campaign shaking warfare of like World War. And so, like these battles, I can see why they would look at this and other articles written in Dragon Magazine and think about a Flyness-wide war.
And that's why Sarge.
But it really doesn't seem to be exactly what Gygax was talking about. I think he was introducing the concept of warfare in the role-playing aspect, in the game aspect.
Right.
But I don't think he was thinking of it in a campaign-shaking way.
Right.
And so that is a big difference between the, what's going on with second edition and what was going on with Gygax.
So here's my question leading into that point. Is battle system being planned at that point? Gary's like, we need to have a combat system for large scale, and then he leaves, and then battle system comes out. Because that's right around the time frame.
Yeah, but I think that Gary wanted a product like that, but I'm not there. I don't know at all if they had any concrete plans, but I think that Gary liked that aspect of the game early on. So I wouldn't be surprised if he had been on the helm, something like that would have come out. Or maybe he wanted to abandon the old war gaming roots, but I don't get that sense, because he had that military strategic aspect to the gameplay was always present, at least to some degree, in everything a lot of things he did. So I think that hopefully he would have done something that would have been cool if he had settled, because it would have been very much settled in the setting more than the battle system that was just neutral between a lot of other things. Yeah.
Here's another
There's
observation.
no,
Jason, just real quick.
I was just going to say if we go back and look at Saga of Old City and the Battle of Woodsford, Gygax described in loving detail this fantasy battle, but in a very wargaming aspect. The very beginning of the battle doesn't even talk about Gord. It's talking about how the formation of Ivid's army coming through the Adri Forest is formed in column, and how each unit is structured, what type of weapons they're using, what their surcoats are like, how they're armored. It's done in wonderful detail. Now, when you get to the Greyhawk Wars, I did not like the central theme of it, of this campaign-shattering war. But the one thing I would have loved is if it had been done in the detail that Gygax had talked about, that you found in a lot of historical wargaming. If you could have taken the Greyhawk box set, and whether you used it or not, at least used it to show the build-up, the detailed armies of every nation and state in the Flanness, that would have been fantastic.
Maybe the Greyhawk Wars set was something that was a version of Gary's idea. Maybe he had some sort of strategic game like that, and that idea was laying around, and then they made Greyhawk Wars after Sergeant came out and repurposed the product to suit Sergeant's all his changes into the setting. But maybe Gary already had the product idea was already on TSR's clipping board, so to speak, or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Now, Battle System comes out during, since they had to produce material, there's always been this material spread out over all their products that uses, in Battle System, there were these little square cardboard chits that you normally got in war games. And those same style of chits were used in several products of a similar time period, like B-10 Nightstar Terror. Uses the same kind of chits you'd find in Battle System. So some things seem to be also related, that they wanted to get a certain kind of product all done at once, probably so that they could have them produced all together at the same time.
Yeah.
So, I think some things occurred because, it was like, what can we use that uses like this kind of box? What can we use? I mean, in a very functional way, some products seem to be tied together. That when they were doing certain things, they would produce a whole bunch of cutout buildings, or they would produce a big map and some kind of combat system. And, like they did in the Gazetteer series from Astara, that they would have certain things that would come out because of the design of the functional process. And I tend to think that some of their stuff, like the Greyhawk City box set, part of that's because they had Gygax's old promise of coming out with a Greyhawk City. They had some information from City of Hawks, but at the same time, they wanted to, it's always was a big promise, so they finally did come out with it. But I think it's also linked to a lot of other products that were coming out at the same time. So they needed something that would fit in the box, as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you notice with Greyhawk, there is eras where certain products of similar appearance come out. Like there's a certain look to the Sergeant material that came out. There's a certain look to when Cook or Reynolds was in charge. And so, different eras produce things that had a similarity with a lot of the, Greyhawk material that came out.
So We know of a lot of the events of the eastern and southeastern planets. There's articles that came out, right? And that was Kuntz and Gary Gygax mostly giving updates, and a lot of stuff tends to filter in from these books, right, Mike? A little bit. There's a little bit of intermixing, like the
Group
war stuff
stuff.
going on, and the Horn Society, and all, and the Bandit Kingdom information is in a lot of those articles, correct?
I think that was the
Well,
intention.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, there's an entire article on where the bandits are.
right.
That touches on all the bandit kingdoms, which are not shown in detail anywhere else.
But does that tie into what happens in the war books here, or is it?
Yes.
That's
Oh,
what I
no,
want to
no,
know.
no.
Okay.
Oh no, it's the
Yeah,
articles
okay.
you get in Dragon by Kuntz and Gygax about Greyhawk and the situation so far. They are very tied in with what's going on in the Gord
Got it.
books,
That's
at
what I
least
wanted to know.
the
Okay.
beginning.
At least the beginning.
Uh, Now there is a
Thanks, Casey.
changeover by the time he hits City of Hawks in the last two
Well, I
books.
can imagine. Yeah.
And so most of this stuff that came out in the Dragons, they're linked to the TSR published novels. And Sea of Death, I think, was written before the separation of Gygax and TSR. So I kind of lump that book in with what's happening in books 1 and 2. Even though they're not published, 3 isn't published by TSR, I think it was written at the time he was with TSR. So there's a great similarity between that, the earlier books, and the Dragon magazine articles.
Okay. That's good to know. So we had an earlier question on canon differences beyond and what percent in this. Let's just talk about the first 3 books because you think that they're all the same. So, I mean, what is it? 90% of it's pretty accurate to what goes on in the canon from that era, in the mid 80s. Before, sorry, we're talking about before From the Ashes, right?
Yeah. Well, in a way, I mean, there is a big thematic difference between what Gygax was writing. For one thing, it's a much, it's surprisingly grim. Like the back of Saga of Old City says, City of Greyhawk, it's a wondrous place. It's a cruel, harsh place. And there are some very graphic things happening that you will never see, I think, in a TSR published, material.
Right.
And it's also, which is a little different, this is the viewpoint of a thief campaign. The Gord novels do not tend to be written from an omniscient viewpoint. You always have to look to see who's talking, because Gord, he sees things one way, and that might not be the truth. It might be just Gord's viewpoint. There's a character called Geller, and he gives a lot of information, but his information may be wrong. So they are all untrustworthy narrators. Now, when you get to the omniscient viewpoint, it is coming from a godlike eye view normally in writing, and so you can trust an objective viewpoint to an omniscient viewpoint. You really don't find that in Gord. So a setting book is providing you with that godlike eye of truth. The Gord books don't take that at all. And so it is a major discrepancy between the two kinds of campaigns.
Very cool. It's
I
interesting.
The big difference that I remember, and it was a couple of years since I read the books last. So, but I think the big difference between the published Greyhawk and the Gord series in the first books are the city of Greyhawk. That is the biggest difference, so to speak. It's a much bigger, much beefier, much grittier, much more comprehensive city that he paints in the Gord books, and one that I like way better than the TSRs. It's not what's in the TSR version is not bad. It's fantastic. It's just that it's not much. It's not much compared to Gord, meaning Gary paints a much more rich, diverse, full picture of a way bigger, way cooler metropolis, not just one little cute place with some very interesting bits in it. And everything that is in the TSR box you can fit into Gary's version of the city, which I think it's so cool, so to speak.
And literally, the map provided, that sketch map in City of Hawks, he gives measurement, and it turns out that Gygax's version is a monstrously big city. It is 6 miles wide and 9 miles like north to south. So you have a 54 square mile interior.
Yeah, but you that's the whole book page, probably, or something. I simply assume that comprehends a little bit of the surrounding. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think
you don't think that commentary is to scale for the map.
Yeah, well, there is a scale, but I think you can scale it down just a little bit. You can adjust it just a little bit to get it right, so to speak. So yeah, he just wanted to brag a little bit, maybe, I think. So if the way I want to tackle the city is to shrink it down by 20-25% and simply say that those 7 miles is from one end of the side of the river to the Grey Run and everything in between, so to speak. If you take it that way, I think it will fit the bill really, really well. And you can easily fit a few 100,000 inhabitants in there. And you can make it a gritty, big medieval city with some old city blocks that are almost abandoned. Slums can really be a maze to get lost in, and not some cute little parkland in one little corner.
That's what I like.
And stuff. So you have in the foreign quarter that is walled in on all sides is like a city in itself.
I don't think that map is 6 by 9 miles, right? This map and
do you mean
I don't think that's 6 by 9.
Well,
the
little blurb before it gives an inch measurement. That if
1
you
inch
measure
is
out
3
on
miles.
That map.
So I simply assume that it's about 6 miles. Yeah, you have. Yeah, this map, if you cut away the part at the bottom and then you take this one, it's not too far from it. I think it's fairly accurate. Okay. And it also makes sense that the river is that big. It's a major river. So yeah.
Yeah, it's much nicer, I think, to have the way they have the Celoton and the Grey Run in the City of Hawks map makes more sense to me, especially considering that Old City is actually the Old City. And that there might have been a fortification on the Celoton, but the real city itself was on a plateau. Now, one of the nice things that I like about City of Hawks is described. It is not a flat city. It is a city full of contours. Old City is on a plateau, and so that the area below the plateau might have been the original dock area. And it's described that the university district, like the inn where Gord and Sam are staying, were once the portion outside the walls of the original city.
Yeah, and this is so cool because you can sense that this is a city that evolved, because originally you have the Grey Run, and this is also a very defensible position, the peninsula between the two rivers. And you get this, I get the sense that this little island in the Grey Run might have been the original settlement for the Baron of Celinton, for his keep and castle was on this little island here. And then he built the city around on the plateau next to it, so to speak. That was the original city that was walled in on the plateau, a high defensible position with a river on one side. And then this area here was probably farmland and supportive stuff. And then they had a port on the, and in my campaign version, this area here was just a tiny little river back until the Great Kingdom came, and they made this is man-made, so to speak, this river, and then they built the city. So even the geography layout kind of supports a different narrative, and I think Gary kind of makes that case here really well. And also the citadel here is another hill that sticks
Yeah,
out. That's
yeah.
why the river
And
kind of makes a meandering. And the citadel is built on that hill, so to speak, next to it. So the landscape, he takes that way more into account. The TSR map is kind of a void. You don't know anything about this. You don't know anything about the surroundings. This maps make way more sense from a perspective, from a lot of perspective.
And it's like the high quarter is actually high ground.
Yeah.
The processional is like a valley that is between the old city and the high quarter and the citadel.
Yep.
The low quarter isn't talking about economics. It's
no,
talking
it's low because it's low river level and it's easy to with the port and stuff.
So,
yeah.
The Gord book goes east to west, whereas the City Greyhawk box set goes south to north as far as you go higher elevation.
Well, yeah, but the box set doesn't make sense because it's like a city that is steeped on a huge mountain that we don't have any. Yeah, meaning the box set map is a kind of an anomaly because it's just hung out there. We barely know any of how it is, and also the river kind of flows in interesting ways there too. So or in weird ways. So to me, and also it's not a defensible position. There is on that map, there doesn't seem to be any reason why anyone will build a city in that particular spot. This one has a lot of cool features that made the reason why they built the city where they built it. And it's built in. So Gary, I think he did way more research and a lot more creative input into the city building than TSR did. So TSR probably wanted a product out, so to speak. So the map was a quick fix.
And other cities he's described are not flat level or anything like Lukesh. The area around the docks is low, and the walls are on a plateau removed from that, but probably close enough to allow defense, like firing down into the wharf area. Over in Stoink, Rat's Wharf, which is their main way of shipping and such, by water, that is outside the city walls. That is, not walled in, but it's right next to another area. They're both called villages, called Haldrun, which is home to mercenary companies and humanoid tribes that can be recruited, for various things out of Stoink. So, Gygax isn't described like most of the maps that I see for cities in second edition are flat. Like you're not seeing different types of contour, but in the Gygax descriptions in the books, most of the cities have some kind of terrain features that aren't just like a flat plain.
Yep. Probably from wargaming and history he studied. So Gary had way more. He thought way more about stuff like that than the designer. A lot of the designers and especially artists at TSR who just got an art order and no one wrote that into the art order, and that aspect got lost.
All right.
Matthias asked me a question about, so I'm looking in the book now because I forgot, I can't remember what the map looked like in here.
It's the same map as the Free City Greyhawk box set.
Oh, okay. Well, then, if it's the same map.
It's actually the same as Malden's map, actually.
Okay, yeah. And Malden and Neva had this discussion, and it's especially Malden's map is a beautiful map. It's not that I criticize one bit. I think it's an excellent example of city mapping. The problem is the concept that I think is lacking. It's just hanging there and doesn't fit into the surrounding area, so to speak. Gary's map has way more features that he thought about in the city design, like the defensible position, and how the city kind of evolved and the different quarters had different characters and stuff. None of that in the TSR map, none in that city design, so to speak. They all that rich kind of, and meaning if it's supposed to be like European medieval fantasy, then you should look at any medieval European city. And meaning the TSR map doesn't look like that at all. You don't get any of it. But Gary's map and his city concept, the map is crappy, but the city concept, the city design oozes of interesting, cool features. And so, yeah.
But the castle in the city is in the northeast corner of the city, exactly like City Guard box set has, the Citadel. It's the same spot.
Well, yeah,
Well, there's-
yeah. Well, go on.
I was just going to say there's two fortifications.
We're-
There's
There
three,
is
actually.
Old City, and east of Old City, there is, that, I forgot what it's called offhand.
The
I'm sorry, but
Bastion.
that
It's
is
called the
the
Bastion.
Bastion.
Mhm.
And that's the original fortification.
Yep.
Then I would think around the same time, the Citadel could have been built on its rise to overlook this Celoton, but it was not part of the walled section. I assumed that the Citadel itself, I thought that was more directly west. If you look at the map as north-south in the
Yeah,
city
it's
of Hawk.
just west of mid-city west. And I got the sense that that was something that the Great Kingdom built when they wanted to establish it as a big city and their staging point in the
And the
west.
box
They
set
built that.
city does have contour. The
Oh, it
Citadel's
does.
highest, and then there's terraces. The
Oh,
thing
yeah.
on the walls have
Yeah,
terraces.
but from
Terraces
south to
down.
north instead of east to west.
Oh,
That's-
yeah, but the interesting
Yeah.
thing is that
Yeah.
there's no mountain, no nothing like that described on the outside, so to speak.
Yeah.
And from judging from the measurement, it should be a considerably high mountain or hill or something north of it.
Well, I don't-
Yeah, I think there's a stream that runs right through the middle of the city.
Yeah, there is.
I-
There is the
Yeah.
Bridge of Entwined Hearts too. I should
Yeah.
look. I think we're getting into the weeds too much on this.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah,
Oh,
oh, yeah.
okay,
That's
sorry.
this is a
Yeah.
different show. Yep, mhm. Yep.
We could go all seriously. We could go all night on the difference
That is
between
what
the Greyhawk City
that's
topics.
like 3 episodes just discussed.
Yeah.
This
Y-
difference.
yes.
Yeah. mhm.
So let's get into some of the characters of the Gord novels that are interesting, some of the locations that are interesting, and some of the ideas behind it that are interesting. So, and I know I brought up one. Jason, what think of the first 2 books?
All right. Well, okay. I would say there had always been talk, which I don't know why I was a little concerned about Stoink.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Stoink, like I was saying, there's about 85 pages devoted to City of Greyhawk. And then there's about 80 or so pages devoted to Stoink. And Stoink's a bandit kingdom. It used to be an outpost, I believe, of either Narrand or the Great Kingdom. Like the furthest northerly outpost that was eventually made independent and then became gradually more evil and
First time I'm
became
switching
what's called the
screens.
Bandit Kingdom. There is detail about what's in the city, how the city functions. There's some specific detail about the Lord Mayor's palace, which really is a misnomer because it's a fortification.
Here we go.
It's there's information about these very interesting villages outside the walls of Stoink, which one is Ratsworth with the docks and all these things coming in, and about and Huldrune, which is this village outside the walls, but it's protected because it's filled with mercenaries. It's where the mercenaries stay, is Huldrune outside of Stoink. And then you're told in the story, Stoink is one of the greatest cities of trade, where they are getting material from all over the Flornes, and not just material that is stolen goods being fenced. They actually produce unique items in Stoink. And then they get things from the Backloonish west. They get things from the north. They're getting material from all over, from the west and from the Flornes. It all makes its way to Stoink. And so Stoink becomes an incredible adventuring site because it is ruled by this tyrant, Boss Daly, the Chicago.
That's funny.
But yeah, it is, a little bit of humor there. He's not really a big character in it, and he is very similar in some ways to the beggar master Theobald, physical description and some of the things that are happening in the story. But Stoink has to be so far. It's an incredibly rich place with huge amounts of potential for adventuring. It's an evil city. It's got a slave market, but it's also a lawful city because Daly, as a tyrant, has these businesses pay protection money to him, and the thieves, there's a thieves guild, will not rob those places, and those places are under great protection. And Stoink is as a city, there are another 50 to 70,000 people who are in the area from the book around Stoink. So Stoink isn't just like a normal city state. Stoink is the central city of a very large, for the Flanness, a little nation right there.
Well, and houses a free city state area on the map here.
Yep.
So it's very cool.
Yeah, because it is more than just a little city. It is a city with a great population around it.
And Casey says Stoink is also a hub of Rene activity, and it says that in the books too.
I'd have to. I don't know.
Because I think they're traveling to Stoink every year.
I don't remember. It might be the Atloy who are going up there.
Oh, okay.
The Rene barge folk don't do much that's on the ground travel. They're barge folk.
Well,
they go
river
through
is wide, so they might be able to take them.
And the river's navigable in the book. Because
Yeah.
Ratsdwarf is getting in all this stuff, and I don't see why they couldn't come up there. Now, Gord leaves the Atloy before he gets up to Stoink, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's good to see that there's a lot of detail about Stoink in the books, so that you can develop out of, and that's cool. So
again, it's more like the original folio, where the description of Stoink gives you a piece here, a piece there. There's no map. There's no detailed description of a lot of things that you want, maybe a list of guilds. You want some description of what the city looks like as far as the walls and that. You're given a lot of small details and atmosphere and character to the city. And that, of course, is one of the great advantages of a narrative over a setting book, is that the narrative is the setting book with life breathed into it.
absolutely.
Because there's dialogue and description and moving events that are kinetic. And the setting book is instead a lot of detail, but it's of necessity. It's not an adventure. So something like From the Ashes might have adventure suggestions, but the main theme of From the Ashes, Tab, The Adventure Begins, and from Living Greyhawk Gazetteer is to provide updates and overall views of the whole campaign. So you're not going to get the kind of living feel about reading about a character's interactions. And that's one of the things that makes the Gord novels so wealthy. There's also 7 novels of a minimum of like 350 pages apiece. So you're really looking about 2,500 pages. Well, less, because the last 2 books are very heavy with talk about the plains and the abyss. But you are really getting 2,500 pages of Greyhawk and associated material. And that far outweighs any of the other resources that came out, even though there's a lot that can be discarded because they're talking about action scenes and fights. So I look at the Gord books, and I look at them in 3 ways. I'm primarily interested in lore. Then I'm interested in game mechanics and fluff. And then finally, I'm looking at the story itself. And that's like the least of my interest, because it's an okay fantasy, but it's no great work of art. It's not Lieber, it's not Tolkien, it's not Vance, but it is a passable fantasy story with some flaws.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. Flaws are in everything, right? And that's a good thing.
Yeah, and it's So we should just put like a little disclaimer saying it's written in a different time frame, so to speak, and with a different type of audience. And it's kind of
so true.
It's not supposed to be for child safe, family safe for any role player today. No, it's not. There's exactly. It's not. It doesn't shy away from any topic, and most of it I think he done well. Some of it, no, I think he screwed that up. But I'm willing to oversee that. Meaning he doesn't screw up more than I've done in my games over the years.
We all do.
So in that way, it's kind of a better editor might have been a good. To look over it, definitely. And stuff. They skimped on the editorial bits, I think, both when it comes to inconsistencies with published Greyhawk material and story bits and so on and so forth. And it's a bit like you read the old Hamlet. It's a great adventure, but seen from today's perspective, it's the place of women is probably, like we said on the women's roundtable, it leaves a lot to be desired, and the Gord books goes in the same vein in that way, that they leave a lot to be desired.
There is some very obvious misanthropic parts to it, but there's also this thing that, like many male writers, and I'm very good writers too, most male writers that I've read do not do good characterizations of females. Just seems, especially earlier 20th century.
Yeah, and I think the Gord books is better than some of the other stuff in a way. It's better than Hamlet, way better. But on the other hand, it's not an adventure. This is a narrative, so it demands more character development than an adventure module. Right. So it's not only wenches and witches. It has some I think terrible Everly that is an interesting character. That is one of the most one-dimensional characters I've had seen in any book. It's kind of we shouldn't go too deep, but she's one-dimensional and not interesting one bit, so to speak.
She's like a woman to scream in 40s and 50s movies and television. She doesn't have any character really to be there, but she really is.
Yeah, she's interesting not as a character, I think, but as a story plot, as a plot hook.
Now,
that, I think, look at it as, if you see it from an adventure, if you've been playing it, and I've tried to avoid spoilers. I'm not going to tell the story to the end, so to speak, but it's interesting because if you put this, like if you want to play a campaign and the Gord and the party has the same role as Gord, they come across this woman in Stoink and simply being held hostage, and you decide to free her, and then it ends up being a completely different story at the end, so to speak, with very interesting complications and stuff. That bit, I think, is very interesting, but Everly herself as a character is very one-dimensional, and Gary's not doing a good job at all.
No, but one of the things about Everly that I found, it is not her character, it is the physical description of her as to Gord being recognizably having elven heritage, because she has platinum blonde hair and violet eyes. Those are the signs to Gord of elven heritage. Now, that would mean that I really wanted to know which kind of elves have these drowish similarities.
Well, no, fairies, gray elves have that.
Gray elves. Gray elves.
Yeah, gray elves can have silver or gold hair and violet or amber eyes. So there you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Everly has white hair.
Well, white or silver white.
Yeah, and she, I think she's on one of the books here, if I remember correctly. And she, hang on a second here. No, she's not. She's not, but she is in one of the books. I think she is Clyde Caldwell, and he is a womanizer in art, so to speak, because he always did his women, and I think Everly is in here somewhere.
So we got the audience on a roll now.
Yeah, there she is, so to speak, and you can kind of tell what that picture is supposed to convey. So it's not a bad one by any means, but it's kind of it's a genre. It's the I would say the leisurely version of the chainmail bikini kind of thing. So
that's cool.
Kind of,
it's not that bad.
So it's not bad. No, it's not bad. I don't. But I say you have to. So I'm hedging my bets here as a liberal, so to speak. So,
do you want me? You want me to get in trouble now?
Okay. Yeah.
Here we go. So I like how at the beginning of this book, they're schooling and they're training, right? Okay, in the Gord book. So they're actually doing schooling and training, but there are no going to proms in this book. I said it.
Well, one other thing to note.
Oh, go on.
I was just wanted to note that
take it for what it is. That was a joke.
In the beginning. Well, in the beginning of the book, Gord is taken by this Clyde the Sharper, and we always wondered if that was a nod Gygax was making to Clive Caldwell. That Gord tries to escape severe the work that's done out of the workhouse by pretending to be sick. He's spotted and taken over to the beggar master. And he's put in this elite group of beggars who live at the mansion of the beggar master and are trained. But when you're told about them, they're incredibly young. I mean, these are being trained to be elite. And at the time of the Beggars' War, one of them is 8 years old. Sam, Gord's friend, is 10 years old. Gord starts out at 12 years old and is only 13 at the time of the Beggar War. And Violet is a very controversial character, and she's only 16 years old. And, it's just this entire group. It's very, very bit of Faganism here. It's, from the old Oliver twist, that these are all children. And, I think that's like a very major point in this story, and what Gygax was trying to convey, and something I think that you're relates to what you were saying, is that these are not full-grown adults. At the most, there may be a little more mature teenagers, and they are the elite force, and then led off in the Beggars' War as kind of officers of various mercenaries recruited. And it is really striking how young Gygax has all of these people to be. But of course, childhood did not exist in the Middle Ages. There was a brief period when you were small, but then, you worked. My own family were coal miners, and you had the little kids working the mines, back in the early 20th century, because they could get in places and do things that larger people couldn't. So the idea that you would have this extended period where you would have, various things, but it also had a higher people of higher level in society. They would have a kind of childhood. They would have a period of education. They did have the university district where the young people were studying just knowledge, and not just an apprenticeship.
Jason, you have a point, but there's another point in that about the beggars, and that is Gord's 13. But I get the sense he has no idea what the hell's going on during this Beggars' War, because they start coming and killing everything. He had no idea that was happening. He was kind of out of the loop. So he wasn't
a soldier in the war.
Right. He wasn't an upper level officer at this point.
Actually, he was. He was a least master. He was so successful, he was appointed least master. Now, in the Beggars Union, there are 3 levels of mastery: a least master, there was something in the middle, and then a full master. Now, Gord, actually, in the story, if you reread it, what it says is that Theobald had no idea of where this was going to end up, while Gord is the one who was expecting something to happen. And in fact, there are things that happen in the story where Theobald is betrayed, where Gord specifically sees that this betrayal is coming. There is a theme in the first half of the book about being about disguise, like thievery. A lot of thievery is about disguising yourself, and rather than like mugging and breaking and entering, a lot of it is about con games and about disguises. And then there's the other half of that, is that characters like Gord, who have good abilities and lots of experience, have what is called discernment. They can see what is happening. Like this character, Clyde the Sharper, immediately sees that Gord, by trying to pretend to have this disease in the workhouse, he immediately takes him and sells him to Theobald because he sees the potential in Gord. Theobald immediately sees the potential where other people don't. And this master who's Gord is put under training immediately sees the potential in Gord. So he sees through what might appear to be just a little orphan, skinny, starving, and he sees this great potential in him. And throughout the story, there's all this talk about things that are hidden, and always the stronger characters, the more experienced characters, can see through that into the truth that is hidden beneath it.
Okay.
So, yeah, Gord actually in that book, from very early on in the Beggars War, he doesn't believe in it. He doesn't think they stand a chance.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
My only point was I thought that he got lucky to be awakened when they were all being killed off, and he didn't realize that was coming.
Yeah, but I love the revenge Gord gets at the end of the book, the first book. I think it's so cool, and the way he does it it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and in that scene you're talking about, he hears a sound and he immediately pulls himself up into the rafters. Whereas San, who's younger than Gord, he hears the sound and immediately runs away. So, Gord had more idea under that attack of what was happening, and he immediately, had the discernment to see that there was this attack going on, which San didn't have at first.
Okay. Well, hey, I love that part. I mean, I love all the descriptiveness of it. It's just, and I kind of love. I don't know if this would be a spoiler. I kind of love how he drops the thing on the beggar at the end. That is very well done. I think that's what Anna was commenting on there.
Well, I think it's awesome and very, very clever, so to speak,
I thought that was
to the point, so to speak. I think it's in the way he does it. Yeah,
I love the whole point when they're just he's learning and training, and he's just living on the fat for a couple of years when they're younger. I mean, that's pretty cool too. Need to get and to get better at your and stay away from trouble for all that time afterwards. Mike, you got any characters or locations you like or
Yes.
that's cool to discuss?
Well, I've already linked in the chat earlier on that I had got Sea of Death only to peruse it for campaign references on all. So I put in all my notes from the book in there. But I have not actually read the story, strange enough. Other than that, because it's still fresh on my mind, that short story at Moonset Black Cat Comes of Gord in Dragon 100, there is a wizard, and they call him actually an Archmage Rigello.
Okay.
And who Gord has talked into breaking into this wizard's tower. I'm thinking, I've never heard that wizard referenced anywhere else before. I think that would be a nice little nuanced character for someone to develop in the city of Greyhawk, no less.
Very cool. Sorry, I'm multitasking here. Beyond. So
I think we have one character that we should talk about a little bit, or a couple of them and that's Gord's companions in the book that I think are kind of cool in a way, both because the names is kind of funny. Chert is the barbarian who doesn't wear a shirt, and Curly Greenleaf is the bald guy that is called Curly, and I think it's kind of funny. And then we have I think the most interesting from a setting perspective, and that's Gellor, Nelborn Gellor, I think and he's a bard, the old school bard, the one that gone the whole shebang, so to speak, and who can cast druid spells and is a accomplished fighter and accomplished thief and stuff. And he's the most interesting because he ties into the setting in the name Geller. He's part of the family that rules parts of Ernst and stuff. So he's of noble blood and it's interesting. And Gary doesn't do much of it, but I get the sense that Geller is powerful and he has contacts everywhere. So there's a lot of mystery to his character. And I think he is the one type of NPC that every campaign should have someone like him. that will be kind of cool. So I like that from a gaming perspective. I really like him as an NPC type, so to speak. He's really cool.
Yeah, and they're part of this group with the adventuring group, Curly Greenleaf, who's a druid. But it's also mentioned later that
he's a fighter druid, I think, or something.
Yeah, he's a ranger druid.
Ranger druid, yes, there you are. Yep.
All right, and then he trained with Geller when they were both beginning as druids, which is the first step, I guess, of being a bard. Or I'm not sure, but they trained together in druidical groups. So we have this party of 4 who are none of them composed of the normal fighter, magic user, cleric, thief. Instead, we have bard, we have barbarian, and we have druid. And finally, Gord, who isn't a thief anymore.
I think it's fighter thief, I think he is.
Well, no, and later what Gygax did is came up with this character class that was the acrobat.
Oh, yeah. Okay. But he seems to have very powerful fighting abilities. I always assumed he was like a fighter thief, acrobat or something.
Yes. And part of that is this thing. Now, this is one of the differences between 1E and 2E. 2E does a point skill system. You get so many non-weapon proficiencies or non-weapon skills for a level. And Gygax, there isn't that. He's using a skill system that is a role-playing system. At one point, Gord gets training back very early, back in the city of Greyhawk, in how to use weapons. I mean, he's learned some things in the Beggars Union, but he's learning how to sword fight in a non-traditional thief's way.
But he pays tuition. He has a tutor that's teaching sword fights and weapon training in Greyhawk while he's at university.
Yeah, and in a sense, that is that what it does. What he does is, like, later, Gord learns how to sail a boat from the bargeman. And then later on, as he leaves them, he joins up with the Alloy, the Rene Alloy, who are the caravan people. They're actually more in a way of entertainers, because they're less of thieves. Like the Rene are basically thieves and fighter thieves. The Alloy are the acrobats and these entertainers. And one of the interesting thing is Gord had never ridden a horse before. And so in the story, Gord says he learned to ride a horse, and then it talks about him practicing with the horse. So this idea of picking up bits of knowledge is continuous with Gord. And so he learns the acrobatics, and it changes his character class. He learns how to ride a horse and then talks about practicing with it. So instead of checking off a box like you would in 2nd edition or spending a certain amount of the proficiencies, you can learn anything, but it becomes part of your character background. So if you want to drive a wagon, the DM can say, well, where did you learn to drive this wagon? And if you don't have it in your initial character sheet, you can say, well, you got to learn how to drive a wagon. But after that, you mark it down and you can drive a wagon. Gord picks up woods lore during his time with the woods folk and the Adri, and with Kurt and Curly Greenleaf. So Gord is continually progressing in skills, and he's adding them on. And it's in a different way that you get with the more structured but limited skill system that you find in 2nd edition.
Well,
so that
I think, though, the way they have the Thief Acrobat in Unearthed Arcana kind of fits him, where you start off as a thief, but then at 4th, 5th, 6th level, you switch over to an acrobat, but you still have
yes, exactly, yeah.
So, I kind of like the way he did that.
I believe the Barbarian is introduced in Unearthed Arcana.
Yeah, it is. The Barbarian's introduced, too.
And there you have Chert. So you don't have a regular fighter. You have Chert the Barbarian. Yeah. You don't even have a regular druid. You have a druid ranger. You have a bard, which is a very exotic character class. And then you have an acrobat thief. So in this book, Gygax is showcasing some of the more exotic, character classes than you'll see, in a regular, in a regular thing. And in that way, he's kind of forecasting what you're going to see more of in later editions, with characters taking up, different classes than you're regular going to see, and doing some multi-classing that may be outside the normal set of rules for first edition.
Well, I think it shows that it was written before 83, too, because a lot of that's in Ars Arcana, right?
Well, I would assume that there are parts of the story that were written at different times.
Oh, okay.
It's very hard to say, when you're writing a book, it can be a very quick process for some people, or it can be a very involved, long process.
True. That's true. Yeah. Awesome. Oh, Jason, you still there? All right, so here, I'm going to go to...
What's that?
You kind of zapped out for a second. I'm going to go to something here.
Yeah.
Let me make sure I go to the right scene. I go to the right scene? Okay. So, book 2. Now, I wanted to read up on Strandkeep Castle to make sure I did it right, and wanted to make sure that it was Anna placed it, I think, pretty well, and also that there was details in here that were not in conflict with what I did the last couple of weeks with it in there, and it talks about the Prince of Ulick and the big fight that goes on there with Scholar Brotherhood agents and humanoids, and then it kind of doesn't really go into any specific details, so that the ruins I had and all that kind of fit into it, and I was like happy about that I was able to incorporate this piece of canon from the Gord book, from the second Gord book, into my game, because it's been sitting on my map there, and I'm like, I got to use it because it's right in the area I play in. So what did you think about that whole battle and the whole discussion of that area, Jason and Anna and Mike?
Well, I that is one of my favorite parts of Artifact of Evil, is that initial battle, the introduction of the Scarlet Brotherhood characters. There's not great detail, and I always enjoyed that, but they are more, the more in line, I think, with the initial view of the Scarlet Brotherhood than they became with Sean Reynolds' work on them and in Slavers and in the Scarlet Brotherhood source book, where they're more like the Illuminati or Hydra, or they're a force to be reckoned with, but they are kind of behind the scenes. Let's see,
Yeah.
You zapped out for about 2 seconds. You're fine now, I think.
Yeah. But and also I think that part of the book is interesting, because it seems to me a fairly a kind of a more realistic kind of siege in a way. They dig under the battlements, and they go over the walls, and there's some engineering and stuff involved and so on, and it seems to be slightly more historically accurate. But on the other hand, a fantasy doesn't have to be historically accurate, because you have high power magic dragons and all sorts of other cool stuff you can use, so to speak. But it is interesting, because I would say it's a multi-dimensional siege that makes it more interesting. So again, I think that's where Gary shines as an author, in those kind of aspects. City design, the siege, and stuff like that. That's where he shines. And just like when portraying females are not his forte, but sieges and city design and stuff like that, he's really good at. So and the books reflect that, so to speak. So yeah.
Just wanted to bring that up, in this discussion tonight, in the first 2 books. That
and I also think it's cool that
to the canon.
I also think it's cool how the Scholar Brotherhood are portrayed. They are the financiers, the advisors, the kind of instigators and stuff like that. But they don't have troops on the ground.
They're not the conquerors, like they
exactly. No. They are the ones that make other people. They promote and enable other evil going on, so to speak, and Gary portrays that in an interesting way. It's not up in your face; it's just mentioned, and I think it was, if I remember correctly, Geller that kind of saw the political dimensions of this, and Gord just thought it was fun fighting kind of thing. I get that sense, and someone has to correct me, but that's my remembrance of reading it 10 years ago. That was the case. Yeah.
So Look, I mean, we're almost at 2 hours already. Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
We
this
barely
is very
scratched the
close.
surface. We're gonna have to come back and do
we
more
have
of
to
this.
go back and yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, you're
go ahead.
like I was saying. This is about 2,500 pages
Yeah.
of material, and it is
Yeah.
the most. Even with the thing that there are action scenes that are not really lore, there is so much in these books. There's more in here. You know, you've got to understand the folio was 32 pages. The
Mm-hmm.
83 box sets, they had some stuff that was, you know, there was some things, deities, there was the weather table that they took, and all important, but the amount of material that is in these 7 books is vast, because there is one story in Knight Aaron called Twist Buck's Game, where Gord is playing a game with one of the professors from Grey College or such, and they go through the streets of the city of Greyhawk, providing information on street names and the names of inns and taverns. And it is so cool if you want to flesh out the city of Greyhawk, because right in this story there are dozens and dozens of names that you can later on put to flesh out the city. And it is just one little short story, and it is filled with information. And that's the kind of thing that it, to me, heavily outweighs the quality of the writing. One of the worst things I find is even his women are one-dimensional, but so are a lot of the men. I mean, I think about the worst thing he is a creator of characters.
Yeah,
which,
but
you know,
oh, sorry. Yeah, please go on.
it just seems surprising to me that I like a lot of the names he comes up with. I mean, some of them are
Yes.
silly, but I
Yeah.
just do not like the characterization. Description, he can be absolutely wonderful. There's this scene in Saga of Old City where Gord and Geller are out in the mercenary at a very nice restaurant where the mercenary officers are. And there's about a page or page and a half of description of the meal. And it is wonderful. It makes you hungry. He is good at description, and you could cut out this description and keep it so when you're bringing players someplace to an inn, or you could just read it off verbatim, and they could be having described all these foods and bring it all to life. And you can take a little aspect that's all role playing, and you can bring a lot of atmosphere and background and liveliness to the thing just from his description. And there's points of description here and there throughout throughout his writing, and it is exceptional, I find.
Well, I'm enjoying it, and I think when you're talking about, hey, there's some characters are one-dimensional, it's a fantasy setting, right? Barbarian, they're going to be, right? Everyone's, you know, sometimes if you have too many, this isn't Game of Thrones, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? This is written but well before that, and it's meant to be in a Greyhawk fantasy setting, and some characters don't need to have super depth to them, only the main characters, right? So I think that's part of it. You know, I'm enjoying the books, and noting that it's more of it goes and it's telling us a lot about the area, a lot about some locations that I've never ventured in, and that's what I like about it. You know?
Yeah, and it's definitely not the worst kind of fantasy to read. It's just there's a lot of better stuff out there, and better
Sure.
stuff that Gygax was influenced by. But even the story itself isn't terrible.
In the Dragon 100 short story, at the introduction, Gygax actually apologizes that Chert and Gord are influenced by Faffer and the Grey Mouser.
Oh
Really?
yeah, they really are.
But that
I haven't read
there's nothing
that.
wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we all steal from things.
Mhm.
All of us, you know. It's okay.
Well,
But
I really think Gygax wasn't. He wasn't. I don't know. Maybe he was trying to write a really good book, but you know, and in some respects, like I said, it's fantastic. But you know, story-wise itself, it's not a bad story with some flaws. One of them that I found a little clunky and sometimes disturbing is that he breaks into like early 20th century, like 20s gangster talk. And, you're kind of expecting kind of fantasy Middle Ages talk or fantasy Renaissance kind of talk. But some of it really is some of the terminology, and especially when he's trying to be tough and vulgar, he breaks into a really like, you could hear, Edward G. Robinson talking in some of the people talk right there. So I found that a little clunky, and but he tried at first to do it consistently, and I think what he was trying to do was make the story understandable to like a younger audience. There's no these and thous and like kind of pseudo Shakespearean kind of talk. It's very direct, and it's very understandable. I think if you look at the HBO show Rome, where all the Romans spoke like they were English, and that the various classes, like the lower class Romans, spoke like with a Cockney accent, or I thought that worked very well. And again, it was an idea that could throw people off, but he's not going to have people speaking like they're trying to speak Latin. So I think Gygax was doing something very similar there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're almost to the 10 o'clock time already. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Really appreciate Jason you coming on. We're gonna have to continue this with later books and talk more. I think we need to eventually spend a time on the City of Hawks later on, because I know nothing about them. I haven't gotten to read them yet. That would be pretty cool to see what that what the differences are. You say it goes back to the beginning in Cities of Hawks. So I think maybe we should do that at some point. Go back to
It takes me about 2 months to do the set of recordings. We're at just did the 40th recording today, and that's 40 hours, and at 40 hours plus, and we're about 5 or 6 more hours to go before we finish.
Okay.
And then probably in August we'll start Artifact of Evil and finish up at the end of September. So by the time we get to City of Hawks, it's going to be about 8 months from now just for City Hawks, and close to a year, 10 months from now we'll be finished all the books.
You think?
I think. Well, or a year from now.
Yeah.
Well, we've been doing it almost every day. I find that pace works for me, but I'm on disability, so this is one of the things that I do every day, it just seems to be flowing along very nicely. It's not professional. It's not a professional reading. It's not done.
It's good. It's good. It's not. Yeah, I like it. It works. Yep.
So can someone please put the link for where you can listen to these in for Cannon Fire in the chat?
It's listed on the front page of Cannon Fire.
Sure, but for us lazy folk who want the direct link.
Right now there is we put in a commentary, text commentary that you can find, so you can add your own comments, and we can reply to them.
Thank you,
and none of this is written in stone. It's done on an hour episodic thing. So even if we got enough or we needed to fix it up, we can always redo things as well. I don't know, but I'd like to get a text conversion of this at some point, where like they have closed captioning text. There should be a program that can take the audio and change it into text, which I'd find very useful. And I'm linking up. I'm going to have the page numbers that are covered in every one of these recordings listed by the recording. So like recording number 1, it's page like 9 to 17. So that later on with the index, we're going to have the index that I did for Saga of Old City. So you can say, look up the Alloy, and then go just back to that section that covers the Alloy. So, it's going to be 45 hours just for Saga of Old City. And you may not be want to sit down and listen to it from 1 to 45. You may want to listen to the sections like on Stoink, the sections on the Renee Bargeman, the sections on the Atloy, or various things. I found like the Battle of Woodford. We did the first recording, and it was so interesting that I thought it was like 7:30, and it was already past 7 o'clock when we end, because just hearing what Gygax described for that battle and how interesting it was, because it was his war game roots. He knew exactly what he's talking about, lovingly describing one of his favorite subjects, which was pole arms. It was such a interesting thing that it went by, just zipped by. And you may just want to hear about that battle, and that would be great. And
Awesome.
so you can go back, and hopefully when we've got that all done, you'll be able to look at the index, find what you're interested in, and listen to the separate recordings about it.
Love pole arms in the Vulge. We love pole arms in my
Yes.
game. I love pole arms. Beck to Corbin, Bardish's halberds, Glaive's arms.
Fouchard forks, yeah.
All of those. It's great to have all those in the game.
Gygax, one of the units that Ivid sent up were Vulgers. And I'm looking at this, and I'm trying to figure out, what is a Vulgier? I'm thinking it is, because I hadn't really seen the, the possessive of the name of the type of unit before, and at first I'm thinking Vulgiers, what is that? And then I realized it's the Volge. It's the men who are using the Volge.
It's cool. Cool to get some different types of weaponry in there into the game. All right, so let's do some shout outs here, and then we'll continue on where we got some really cool things coming up. I feel like relieved. I mean, last week was 5 streams and 5 nights starting with Wednesday. This one I only have 2 more streams this week, like a normal week, so it's good. So Mike, what's going on, man?
Oh, nothing big's going on. I don't know if I had an opportunity to, but kudos on the gargoyle session. That was memorable, and it went off how I knew it would. It just everyone had a good time.
When Eric
module, good time.
He walked away when I said Tom and Jerry. That was the funniest.
Yeah.
And then Hubert and Rudy. Well, I was like, what? Yeah. He just, because I don't think he had read it until that point. And when he started reading it, he's like, this is freaking awesome. And then you don't even know. I don't know if a lot of people saw this, but when Luke did that big donation, he typed in, and it said "make it stop" all in caps. So he was like, yeah. So and then Luke, I linked all this into all the Discords. Luke really was very complimentary. He said it was one of the funniest games he had done all year. Terrible adventure, but great companions and great play. And so it was very complimentary. Plus, we raised $8,000.
Yep.
So thank you, Mike, for that. It was a blast, and we're not going to saturate the community with another fundraiser. We normally do the big one next February. We don't want to overdo it. 2 a year for the community is more than enough. So I think that's a good one, good point there. But Mike, thanks a lot for that.
And I also like that it's now canon in your campaign.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But it's so out of the way, and it doesn't matter. So
okay,
it's out of the way.
You never go. There's a no-go
zone.
Zone.
Any attention.
Yeah, it's a no-go zone.
It's like Vampire Thrommel. It doesn't exist in my world. So yeah, exactly. But good point there.
But you actually played this, so yeah.
We actually played it, and actually had characters that are in other adventures.
Qualifies for the Wall of Fame, maybe the Wall of Shame.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to have a Wall of Shame on the other side or something. So, yeah.
We'll have to decide. What we're running for next year's one, and we'll see. My guess it's going to be puppets, but we'll find out. So, and giveaways. The complimentary donations are going. Giveaways are going out now. I just got another one confirmed. So I think Zombie Mitch is up next. I think. Cool. And if you were on Zombie Mitch, I still have all. I'll send you something in Discord. But I just got the one before you done. I think you're up next. So. But it's good. We're getting through that. So, Jason, what's going on, man? You got anything else exciting going on?
Well, this is my main project. I'm trying to do it most days, at least like 6 days a week. So if you get a chance, it's on the Cannon Fire Discord from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. With a little, not much over. And anybody is free to come on and either talk, but we're recording all this. So everybody, it does say recording, so you have to be aware if you're going to ask questions, you need to give us permission to record your voice and then archive it on the Cannon Fire website. Now, you can also, we have a channel, text channel for it, so you can get on and not talk and just type in information into the text channel. My co-host, Chris, he will also provide pictures and maps and relevant things that go on the text channel.
Okay. I wondered
so
about
that's
that.
Yeah,
That's neat.
and that is the main my main thing right now. I'm transferring a lot of old material from my old blog to Cannon Fire itself, but my next project with original material, I had been working on a gazetteer for Blackmore. And in my, it's not a standard campaign supplement. I don't use it the same way that I've really run into anybody else. There's a little bit of tech in it from the kind of idea of S3, the Barrier Peaks, but it is also Blackmore, Land of 1,000 Witches, and so it has its own flavor there. It's part of the Finnish mythology, and I have the old villainous Louis or Baba Yaga, who is in my campaign Igvilvil, the mother of witches. So that is going to be, I think, the next thing that I focus on. I write some fiction, and I was thinking of taking on the compilation A0 to A4 in a fictional way. But really, the next project I'm going to be involved with is trying to do up more with the gazetteer of Blackmore.
I did not know that. I never put Louis and Baba Yaga together, Jason. Wow, until you just said that.
Well, Baba Yaga is simply a Slavic version of the the Finnish, and both the Slavs and the they're kind of linked together to the Finns, and so there is from the I'm Eastern European, and there's kind of a different background in knowledge that and history that that people in Eastern Europe talk about than is the Western versions. So there is kind of a link between Louis and Baba Yaga. As far as the comparisons of the stories told about.
Okay.
And for me, in Greyhawk, Igvilvil really seems to fit. She is Baba Yaga and Louis in my campaign. She's known by different names. And so she's a different kind of, I think, character than has been shown for Igvilvil in a lot of the other sources.
Very cool, Jason, and thank you for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. This has been great.
Hey, it's great that you only zenk out once or twice for about 2 seconds now. This is awesome compared to
much better. Yep.
So
and we had one glitch in the beginning, but then it worked from there.
Yeah,
so,
it was fantastic.
Yeah. This is the new Zoom for Chromebook. Came out at the end of June.
Perfect. Yep.
So Anna, what's going on with you?
I've been sitting here and setting up the new repository. I've started I've used Notion, the tool, for quite some time, and because I realized that my website, my Greyhawk content doesn't have a good home where you can find stuff easy, and I've been aware of it, but I'm not a web designer, and I've been looking for a place to have it, so to speak, that doesn't cost thousands or hundreds and hundreds of dollars a year, and I've tested various solutions, and it seems like Notion might be the one that cut it. So I asked my patrons, and I got some okay, so to speak, for a test version. So I'm actually working on a Notion site that will be my Greyhawk repository, so to speak, that I will start putting some, and it will be tagged and all that, so you can search on it. There will be different collections of stuff, so you can actually find it, and you can do a search on the whole thing. So I'm starting to put in. So I put in a lot of the old maps. I'm putting in all the heraldry and stuff like that, and things that have gotten lost in the mayhem through the years. So the first set of my Flanny's map from 2012, I put all the ones, there are a couple of ones that might be missing that I only have as Corel files. I've lost the JPEGs and the PDFs. But I think because there were some that were actually either not made because I switched to do the whole map in one piece instead back then. So I put all the ones that I can find on all the backups and stuff in PDF and JPEG, and they are indexed, and all the realms and the countries that are on each of them are there. So that one will come out shortly. I just need to polish it a little bit and add some text around it and put in the Creative Commons and link it back to my website and stuff. So that is coming fairly soon. So that will be a much better home where I can simply just put stuff in. And I also think that the Greyhawk map blog and some other stuff will be there too, because it's much easier for me to just update it. I can just type it in. It's like type it in a Word document, so to speak. I don't need to update, and I don't need to WordPress and others is much more difficult. So that's is going on. And then on the mapping side, I'm working on the Gryffindor game project. That takes about half of my time at the moment to work on the maps for that will be a cool hex crawl thingy that will be kind of interesting. There's some new takes on it, so it's a little bit of a test bed for that's one aspect of the future technique. And my Shieldland project has the other one. Shieldlands has the scope, the detail and stuff, and the Gryffindor project will be the presentation. And so what I'm learning from the Gryffindor project, the Arcadia map will be implemented in the Shieldlands. So we'll see. So I'll take my learning from that, and also I really hope that this upcoming week that I will be able to sit down and do some test streaming both to YouTube and maybe test Facebook and test Twitch too, and see what it looks like, and just to sit down and doodle in Photoshop and maybe a little bit of World Machine and stuff, and just stream and see what it looks like and see what it works. So I'll try and advertise it in various places that I'm doing a test. Some of them might only be 10 minutes or 20 minutes. In the beginning, I don't advertise it. I'll just set it up and take a look at it myself a bit and see what different resolutions work and frame rates and more the technical stuff, so to speak, and see that it works. And then when I get that set up, I'll do an OBS template so I can put my little webcam and all that stuff, so to speak, the stuff that Jay did. It will not be half as fancy as Jay. This is for the mapping nerds who want to see how the sausage is made, so to speak. It will be the ones that want to are interested in how things are done in Photoshop and World Machine, and not so much World Machine. That I have to wait until I get a faster workstation, because just to see things update for 5 minutes and then you work for 30 seconds and then it's a 3-minute wait, that's kind of ridiculous. No one wants to see that. It's boring. But to Photoshop and some of the other stuff, Illustrator and especially Photoshop work is kind of, I think that's very, very interesting for a lot of people to see. I get a lot of questions about it. So I definitely want to that, especially as a companion to the fantasy mapping show. That I think I have the idea for what I think should be the second episode, but we'll see what
we need to
Alyssa
set the date
and
for
Jay
that.
says.
Yeah, we need to set the date for that.
Yeah, we need to set a date and a theme for that.
So August. Yeah, we need to do that.
Yep, and there are some more campaign material and stuff coming out. I have more heraldry in the making and stuff like that will come on my Patreon. So, and the Worth project is going forth too. So there is a update coming in a day or two. Cool. That will be the wrap up of version 1 with the updated texture and stuff like that to match the polar ice thingy that I did. So that's coming to my patrons, and then there will be the hot Worth and cold Worth versions to it. And then after that, that will probably be in about 2 weeks. that will be the wrap up of the initial Worth project, because then I've accomplished what I set out to do. I got a first working prototype of the planet that I can use in order to reference where the Flanies is and stuff for future mapping. So that was the purpose of it, so to speak, to get like the basic coordinates and the basic models, so to speak. And then we can refine it. We have to realize that each pixel on that map are many miles. So it's like 10, 15 miles or something like that per pixel. So it's not accurate by any means, but it was a way of placing the Flanies in the right spot. So we can kind of, and basically where major stuff is. And one of the things that the ice is that then when I've done this, I have to sit down and start redoing the Flanies terrain background with the new ice information and stuff, and then see if I can do a proper winter version too for the Atlas and the map update this fall. So that is starting in a week or two. I will start that work too. And so that is coming. So there's a lot of things that are in the early stages or the mid stages, and then there will be little tidbits coming out now and then that will be finished. So this is very much a basic year of upgrading all the basic map work. So that's why there's few finished things, but a lot of stuff in the making and updates. So I hope that will be some interesting stuff for my patrons. And in a few weeks, the Worth model and stuff will be, I will plaster that on my on the website and everything for everybody. So it's coming. And my campaign, we didn't have a session this Sunday because there was so much going on and there were players on vacation and I had so many streams and so many other stuff. So hopefully we can have a session this Sunday instead. So yeah.
Very, very cool, Anna. Yep. Hopefully, get to see you hear more about their second level now, at least, right?
Oh yeah, their second level. So and now I think they will add a third level fairly soon, because there will be some one of the players said that it feels like we're at Helm's Deep waiting for the orcs to come, so to speak. So yeah.
Awesome.
But there might be more than orcs coming. There are 2 enemies coming, and they're not even realizing that IUs might not be the big one in this. Cool. There's Big D too, and Big M coming too. So that's one of the, and I hope I don't have too many players, but one of the cool things is that there always needs to be a twist. And the twist in this one is that IUs himself might not be the biggest baddie in this battle, so to speak. So there might be an even worse thing coming. So yeah. So it's kind of fun. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm sucking out as much as I can from this model. This is probably the last time we're going to use it for a little bit.
Oh, it's so awesome that you need to squeeze a lot out of it.
Notice there's a dwarven statue on the top now, and so we're doing discoveries from the past, special guests. We got a lot of special guests on this one. And note, I just want to show these pictures. Bill has really gotten the Bones 5 stuff out quickly to me. And this is a lot. That's all in that inside here. All those pieces are Bones 5 except for the fire. All that is Bones 5 stuff. So he's gotten it to me. This bridge was the Troll Bridge set. Yeah, it's all out on the table.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so we got some really great stuff coming. Yeah, well, you're so sad, Casey. Well, we have a replacement for you. So is he better? We're going to find out. So, yeah, another great one by Bill. So just note that, and here's the adventuring party currently. Scarn is going, and we have tea time with Taryn playing. We have Kayla, Time Lord's wife, playing, and both Scarn and Tegan are now 8th level priests, specialty priests. And they're searching for. This is the ruins of Wolfclaw Castle that they're finding out in the Lort Mills, but it's sunken, it's down, it's kind of sunken into the ground a little bit. And the special person is Chuck Cumbo is playing as the 4th special guest, and Josh Death Dealer makes his return himself on there on tomorrow night. So we'll see Josh along with 3 of my regular players. Plus, I'm bringing in an NPC they haven't seen before that I've been holding off. And wait till you see this little plot twist that I'm going to have, and that is tomorrow night. Mike Disney giveaways another Scarn printed mini and painted by Mike, along with another Overgord giveaway tomorrow night. Yes, Tegan and Scarn are ahead of you, and it's so your Garn is like Alan Sam to Tim's Leuven, they'll always be one level higher than you no matter what, Casey, so just get used to it. So that's tomorrow night. I'm just busting your stones, but it's fun. Sunday night, big show. Big show. Finally, get this specialty priest discussion. Yeah. So we got the grandfather of specialty priest, Eric Boyd, and Dennis Maldron Tetra. They both have confirmed this is on. Cannot wait for this discussion. It's going to be a really cool discussion, and we'll see. We're going to talk. I'm going to talk about how I make them. I'm assuming Dennis is going to go over how he made them. I want to get into Eric's head about how he did the sphere setup and the traveler sphere and all that time, all the other stuff that he came up with in second edition. Hopefully he remembers, but he's pretty good on that. And just talk about I got 43 specialty priests made up. And I think it'll be a really cool discussion. And then look at this. We are a week ahead on what we're doing next week. So here is our, so next week's Legends of Lord Markland's Eye is the Evil. I think it's time to discuss those two great references. I think they're one in this, they're number 2/2A/2B and my all-time greats behind the Free City Greyhawk box set. And that is, that'll be fun. That'll be a really cool discussion as well. So that's what's going on. One thing behind that, the Gavin beyond that, is the Christine Van Patten shows up the Sunday after, and that's as far out as I am. I don't even know what I'm doing next Thursday in gaming. We'll have to figure that all out. So, but thank you all. Let's do the giveaways. All right, first pick, you get your choice if you want either the Den of Thieves or the Adventure Begins. All right, I'm going to. That's okay, Michael. We can always watch it after the fact, right? Not a big deal. I'm going to close this out. See who wins these two. Yeah, it's all good. Closing entries. First, the winner. 2000 Caesar again, man. Wow. Ooh. You just let me know which one you want, Caesar. Okay. Second winner, as long as he claims it, is Coma. Oh my gosh, Coma again.
Attaboy.
You guys, it must be like fixed or something. That's awesome. Wow. Coma and 2000 Caesar. Which one would you like? Coma gets the other one. Your pick, Caesar. Do you want the Den of Thieves or do you want the Adventure Begins?
I have Den of Thieves. That's really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
So you just tell me, and Coma gets the other one. So let me know, 2000 Caesar. Which one do you want, Caesar? Between the two, Den of Thieves and Adventure Begins. And we're going to raid into Stella Luna. Sound good? She's running Ghost of Saltmarsh. She's also been instrumental in. Okay, you got it. How about giving away Grow Book? No. How about not? Because Jason gave them to me as personally for me, and they're not leaving me. So that's a no.
I don't know how hard they are to find if you have to.
For that question, Nagoya Joe, you get this. You get 5 nose pickers. There you go. You get 5 of them. All right.
Send Nagoya Rosessa's book.
Yes. So all right. So Adventure Begins goes to Caesar, and Coma, you get the Den of Thieves book. I'll get them out to you. I have your addresses on both. And you can get too bad I don't have any of those on me. So, all right, everyone have a great night. See you tomorrow night for a really fun game tomorrow night with an all-star event. I'm assuming that they're going to be souped up with special hero points, and they're probably going to need it too, just so you know. But it won't go to 1 o'clock in the morning, okay? Trust me, like it did last time on a Thursday night special event. It'll go probably 11:30, all right? Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow night.
Bye.
All right, let me set this raid up. Oh, thanks. Raid being set. If you haven't followed Stella when you get there, please do. Nice. Awesome. 65. That's fantastic. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you tomorrow night.